Hey, how's everybody doing? Who's not from New York here? Can you raise your hand? I'm curious. Okay. Oh, I know you from Instagram. You message me a lot. I know your profile picture. Where are you guys from?
Ready.
Awesome. Where are you from? Rhode Island. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming. So today we're gonna go over a lot of information, but I'm gonna do my best to make it as simple as possible because most people aren't quantum physicists and most people aren't doctors and scientists. So we need to take the complex, we have to make it very simple and understand my goal is to have you guys walk out of here not just thinking that you get it, but being able to explain it to somebody in about 60 seconds. It's hard, but we're gonna simplify it. I've been doing this for the past 12 months, figuring out how do we explain this to a 5-year-old. If we can explain this to a 5-year-old, that means that we really understand this. Before I get into that, I want to just give a few big picture basic announcements because there's something that I've been working on. I've been using this center as a sort of case study and test because as you know, does everybody know about unified healing here?
Yes.
Okay, so 12 months, 13 months ago, Unified Healing started. In about 12 months, we opened nearly 300 centers in over 30 countries around the world. And the job isn't how many centers we can open, it's how many centers can we open and make sure that they are all remaining successful and abundant. So I had to sit down over the past 12 months, and I'm still doing it because it's a continuous process saying, what can we do to not just bring value to the centers, because that's not the question we have to be asking ourselves. We have to ask ourselves, how do we bring value to you guys? Because if we bring value to you guys, the value comes back. That's a basic law of the universe. It's called the law of balance. You create value, you receive value. So I have to figure out, with the help of Lee, with the help of Talia, my aunt, with the help of my sister Ashley, how do we create something that we can make this center the first one doing something like it, more or less, in order to inspire all other centers to do the same. And as you all know, my mission is how do we make things accessible and affordable? That's why I started this. Before Unified Healing existed, 90% of these systems were in extremely wealthy people's homes. People like royal families in Dubai and the United Arab Emirates. People like Tony Robbins, who, by the way, has an interview about this technology coming out in about 2 weeks from today, which is awesome. So all of these things are happening, but 90% was in all these people's homes and not available to the public. So affordability and accessibility was something that was huge. How do we make sure that there's a program that doesn't just start in this center, but can end in all? That somehow, and most people told me this was impossible, but I'm going to show you how it is possible, somehow allows centers to remain abundant in their operation because they need to be able to continue moving, expanding, operating, but also making it affordable and accessible to the people that are coming in. So when I first started Unified Healing, we said, okay, if you're going to work with Unified Healing, you cannot charge more than $60 per hour. Everybody said that's beautiful. But is there a way to make it even more affordable? So what we came up with today, and I'm going to share it here, and I'm going to be making videos about this, and I'm going to be doing my best to inspire other centers to do this, but the only way that they're going to do it is if they see it works. So what if I told you that instead of $60 an hour, it would be $3 an hour? How is that? It's not possible. But it is. It is if you set a certain model that will make centers more successful and make it more affordable for each and every one of you guys. So the basis of that model that I'm sure is going to evolve over time. It's starting today as something, in a week, in a month, in a year, it's going to be something else. The model that we created that's starting here, and again, I hope to see expand everywhere because I treat this entire network as one family. That's how it works. Is a monthly membership that gives you 60 hours a month for the price of 3. That means it's about $180 a month on an annual membership that gives you an average of $3 per hour. You can come every single day, a couple hours a day, whenever you want, so long as it's not closed. And I personally believe that, again, we can show this as a case study of success to make something like that happen. And once centers start seeing that this succeeds, it will spread everywhere else. So I'm asking you guys for your help today because what happens here will impact everybody else. The beauty of that is right now we're working with supply and demand. There's a lot of centers we have to raise demand. That's where Tony Robbins comes in. That's where all these people come in to help us raise awareness. But right now, when we're dealing with not enough demand to get to the point of having 1,000 centers, we want to have 30,000. So if you create a model where you only need a few people to cover your costs while making it affordable and accessible for them, you win. In a center like this, you need about 100 people to sign up to cover their expenses for the year. And from there, they can start offering yoga classes for free, and they can start offering everything else that's a part of it, just like I did with Unified. With Unified TB, with Unified Healing, it started with 5 benefits. Today it has 30. The price never changed because more people joined. It's because more people supported it. And that's why we're at where we're at today. So we'll cover more of those details at the end. I want to speak about this. This is your pilot program, your case study. They've decided at Rays of Light to open this to the first 50 people. If you are just interested, there's a name, email, and phone number. I'm just going to give it to you. You don't have to fill it out. You can pass it around. Anybody that's interested, fill it out. The first people are getting that. From there, I'm sure we'll figure it out and take it from there. So I wanted to start with that because it's something that I was a part of in creating, and I do want to see this cover the entire network as a whole. I think if we can work in a uniform and standardized way, we can win. And that's why we haven't fallen, because so many people have come together to make this happen. So now who wants to understand how these moving screens work? We can do that. Okay, so let me take a sip of water. Can I get water from there, please? Thank you. Okay, so with that being said, let's dive into this whole thing. Thank you so much. And we're going to make the very, very complex very simple. Let me first start with saying when I started with looking at this technology, I didn't believe it. I was extremely skeptical. I looked at it. I'm sure some of you were also. What the hell is this black box with moving screens and a computer? It looks like a scam. Can't be. There's no way that something like that could generate the results that we're seeing. But then I thought about it for a second and I said, well, one second. What if I told you that a pill is no different? There's a capsule with some things in a capsule. And because we've been shown that this capsule does something, we understand that it does something. The only thing that's missing to bridge the gap between how a pill works and how this works is awareness, it's knowledge. If you have that knowledge of how this works, then it will be the same thing as everything else that's been accepted into the world today. But truth is an interesting thing. Usually it starts with resistance. And then the person is called crazy. They're called crazy because usually those people go against the grain. Albert Einstein went against the grain. He said Isaac Newton was wrong for 264 years. Time is not absolute, it's relative. And they kicked him out of college, they kicked him out of school, they told him he's crazy, they wanted to put him in a mental institution. And he ended up being right. By the way, he was 21 when he came out with that in 1905. So what is standing in our way? Everything is possible. The question is, do you know how it's possible? There's no such thing of something that can't be done. If energy cannot be created or destroyed, your basic law of science, law of conservation, then infinity is obvious. It's not a belief. It's not a theory. It's not something I have to think about. It's something that's an absolute fact. There is an infinite flow of energy that once we tap into can solve all of our problems. But there are people that don't want us to tap into that. Because if we tap into that infinite flow of energy, free energy becomes a thing. What happens in that world? Well, we win because humanity has a beautiful, beautiful outcome. But all cars will go obsolete, including electric cars. Airplanes will go obsolete. The entire transportation, oil, and electrical industry will go obsolete. The entire medical industry, what you're talking about, trillions of dollars with people that are not going to go down without a fight. So we need to understand that basis before understanding how this works. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. There is an infinite energy, an infinite source that we can tap into. Nikola Tesla showed us how to do that. He was killed for it because you can't meter free energy. If you can't meter free energy, those smart meters on every single one of your houses, unless you took them off, cannot control you anymore. And if they can't control you anymore, well, then nobody can control you anymore. That's the world we want. But that's not the world that certain people that control us want. That's the basis that I want to set over here. Because we need to understand that to move forward. Does everybody understand what I'm saying so far? That makes sense? Okay. So we're going to start with a few basics. Before we go there, we're going to start with these three things. There's something called cellular charge, there's something called pH, and there's something called your oxygen level. How oxygen rich is your environment in your body. Let's break those down for a second. You want a 60-second pitch of how this technology works? It's very simple. I'm even going to draw it for you to make it simple and understandable. I've shown this many times before, and I'm going to keep repeating it until people understand it because it's extremely, extremely simple. So we all have cells in our bodies, and all of our cells have something called an electrical charge. And that electrical charge can either be sufficient or deficient. That means it can be charged like your iPhone on 100%, or not charged like your iPhone on 1%. What happens when your iPhone is on 1%? Somebody shout it out.
Dies.
Before it dies, slows down. It starts freezing. You can't move as fast. It's a deficient iPhone. In our world, it would be a sick body if you don't have that electrical charge that's sufficient in your cells. The science behind that, to make it real simple, is in the units of millivoltage, because that's how it's measured. 70 to 90 millivolts is your optimal health. Anything in this direction, specifically 20 and below, is where disease exists. It's just like having your phone on 1% battery. Your body will not operate the right way. That means that we just had a paradigm shift. Right now, people look at cancer and they say, how do I cancer? How do I beat cancer? You don't fight it. You change the environment so it cannot exist. The cancer is not your problem. The cancer is an expression of a deeper problem. We can go into that another time, but to simplify it on the level of cellular charge, every single cancer patient, every single patient with heart disease, every single patient that's sick one way or another will have a deficient electrical charge to one extent or another. By the way, they'll also have a low pH, and they'll also have an oxygen deficient environment. I'll explain that in just a second. The 60-second pitch of how this works, even less, 10 seconds, is this charges your cells. This is just like you plug your phone into a charger to charge your iPhone and the battery of your iPhone. This is charging the battery of your body. And it does that by creating a charge in the room. Science behind it is photons colliding, light colliding, creating an implosion, and that implosion creates a charge. So what I really just said is light hits itself and creates a charge, and that charge is generating a 70 to 90 millivolt environment, 70 to 90 millivolt charge. And that brings us to this. You experience your environment, and your environment experiences you. I'm going to simplify that instead of making it philosophy. Women, when they spend enough time together, what happens? Say it. Okay. Is a menstrual cycle contagious? Then how is it happening? Does anybody know? There's a synchronization to a bioresonant field around us. So there is something in the environment that's causing, let's say, one woman to express the symptoms, in this case, the menstrual cycle. Not that it's a disease or anything, but I'm calling it symptoms and expression, the menstrual cycle. And most other women in that same workspace, in that same apartment building, whatever it may be, will then sync to the same exact thing for the most part. And it's not spreading from one woman to another. It's because of point number one. You sync to the environment that you're in. That means you put yourself in a diseased and incoherent and distorted and toxic environment. What's going to happen? And if you do the opposite and you put yourself in a healthy and coherent and stable environment, what's going to happen? Beautiful. You become that. That's exactly how it works. This is a very simple thing. We've made health extremely complex and confusing. And I'm not saying that there isn't validity to the details of health. There are. But we have to understand the foundations of how a computer is built before you go and try to become a programmer. Otherwise, you're going to miss the whole ball. Western medicine has great points to it and does incredible things. Western medicine saved my life. Without antibiotics, I would be dead right now. I almost lost my leg from a staph infection. If I didn't have the antibiotics, it would have killed me. It's the Western medicine that saved me. It's the ratio that's killing us. You see, it's not supposed to be a 90-10 thing. We're supposed to live a holistic life. Take all things into consideration first. Once we see the big picture, from there, focus on the individual pixels. Don't do it the opposite, because that's going to give you a lot of knowledge, zero awareness. Knowledge without awareness of how all those pixels are interconnected is extremely dangerous. It leads to big pharma creating pills that are good for your acne but destroy your liver. They call that Accutane. It's because we have a distorted and disconnected consciousness, and our medical system is a reflection of that. These are all facts that I'm telling you. You guys see it in the world. I'm not here to give you theories. I'm here to tell you exactly how things work in a way that you guys can understand it. Do you guys understand everything so far that I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go back. Cellular charge. 70 to 90 millivolts is optimal. 20 and below is dangerous. Charge your cells. You will experience an environment where cancer, heart disease, any imbalance, any disease, any sickness cannot thrive in the first place. That's one point. But there's another two. There's pH, otherwise known as the hydrogen potential of your body, or oxygen. Here's the beauty. There are a lot of different ways to go about helping your body heal itself. And notice that I said helping your body heal itself. You see, current medical system tells you take this pill, it's going to heal you. That's not how things work. Your body is always trying to do one thing. Body's always trying to come back into harmony, to come back into homeostasis, to come back into balance. How do we know that? Because if I take a knife and I cut my arm, I could be in a coma, I could be awake, I could be asleep, and the same thing is going to happen every single time. The direction that the body will go into is to heal that cut, correct? That means that disease is not a natural thing. Health is your natural state of the body. Balance is what the body's always trying to come back into. If you give it the proper environment, you'll experience that. If you give it the improper environment, you'll experience the opposite. But because we live in an improper environment, we just say, oh yeah, it's normal that 40% of Americans have or had cancer. It's normal the third leading cause of death is the medical system itself with medical errors. It's normal that heart disease is the second leading cause of death in the world. That's not normal. It's normal that 1 in 35 children have autism. Well, in the 1990s, it was 1 in 10,000. So what happened? We got to look at these things. We're not. We have to zoom out and look at a holistic approach of what's actually going on here. And that's exactly what the Energy Enhancement System is meant to do. More than you may think, which I'll explain in just a second. So the beauty of these three, cellular charge, hydrogen potential, and oxygen, is there are 3 different ways to bring you to the same exact destination. One is a reflection of the other. That means we already established low cellular charge gives you a disease, and high cellular charge renders an environment for balance and health. Well, let's look at pH. It's the same exact thing. That's called, just for standard purposes, 7. It's 7.2, but let's call it 7. pH is your neutral. Over here is what? Say it out loud. Acidic. And up here is what? Okay. Do you know that if you measure any cancer patient, anybody, any sick person, it will always be an acidic pH. So instead of saying, how do I defeat or fight my disease? Stop focusing on the disease. Focus on the environment that you're giving the disease a place to live. It's almost like saying, I built a house, and it's a house that attracts garbage. Well, then stop focusing on what's inside the house. Destroy the house, demolish it, create a new house. We've been focusing on the wrong thing all along because we're looking at the pixel instead of the screen of all the pixels. So low pH renders an environment for disease, and a high pH, alkalinity, will render an environment for health and balance. Let's look at oxygen. There's a doctor in the 18 or 1900s, I forgot the date. His name is Dr. Otto Warburg. Dr. Otto Warburg proved he won the Nobel Prize for this. Can't say we're making it up. And by the way, YouTube will delete this if you say it on their platform today. He won the Nobel Prize for proving deprive a single cell of its oxygen, of 35% of its oxygen for 48 hours, and it will turn cancerous. Say that again. Deprive a single cell of 35% of its oxygen for 48 hours, and it will turn cancerous. What's the implication of what that man won the Nobel Prize for? Low oxygen renders what? And oxygen-rich environments render what? Great. So all these 3 things, to recap before we go into this. I want to give you guys a basis of understanding health from a different perspective. There's no room for victim here. This just shows you how it works. Not, oh, why did this happen to me? Well, now you have 3 different approaches that you can take. Focus on your cellular charge, focus on your pH, focus on your oxygen. And here's the beauty. When you raise your cellular charge, it will impact your pH positively, and it will impact your oxygen levels positively. Now let's scratch that one out. When you raise your pH, it will impact cellular charge positively and your oxygen levels positively. And now let's scratch that. When you focus on oxygen-rich environment, breath work, it's as simple as that. These are simple things that can be done to help your body heal itself. You will render a positive impact on your pH and a positive impact on your cellular charge, meaning all these 3 things do the same exact thing in a different way. It will all mirror each other when one changes. So when you're looking at this technology, now that you understand this with a focus on electrical charge, on cellular charge, the electrical cellular charge in your body, let's look at these 2 for a second. And you're going to understand very simply how this whole thing works. I have to do this just to make sure you guys are with me. High cellular charge, pH, and oxygen renders what? No. We're going to need to be loud. Renders what?
No.
And low, and I'm sorry, that was low. And low cellular charge, pH, and oxygen renders what? So it's clear. We got that. We're walking out of here clear as day. This is how it works, correct? I'm not letting anybody walk out of here without understanding what's going on. It's not going to happen. Now let's go to the environment. We established what happens with the environment that you're in. You sync to it, correct? We're all on that same page. We spoke about the menstrual cycle. Even if I spend enough time with somebody, if we spend enough time together, our breathing patterns will synchronize. Our heartbeats may even synchronize if we're in sync with one another. And that works because you become in sync and synchronized with the environment that you're in, which implies put yourself in a dirty environment, experience imbalance. Put yourself in a healthy environment, experience health. And here's the most beautiful part of everything. And it's something that we learned when we were about 13, 12 years old, maybe 11. It's the basic law of science that everybody forgets for some reason, which in my opinion has caused for a lot of problems in this world. Does anybody know what the law of conservation is? Raise your hand if you know what the law of conservation is. What is it?
Energy cannot be created or destroyed.
Energy cannot be created or destroyed. Does anybody not understand that? Okay, we're making progress. So if energy cannot be created or destroyed, again, that implies what I just said 10 minutes ago. There is an infinite source of energy to tap into. Question is, how do we mix this with this knowledge? There's something called a toroidal field. Does anybody know what a toroidal field is? It looks like this. It's almost like a donut of an infinite flow of energy moving always with no beginning, no end, forever. If there was a way to express God as an energetic field, that's what the expression would be. There's no beginning, there's no end, it's eternal, and it's infinite. And if we all come from that source, because energy cannot be created or destroyed, the base of all of our matter has energy beneath it, then we must be that thing too. And there were 2 people that proved that. There was a movie in 2012 called Thrive. You guys know Thrive? Raise your hand if you've watched it. Thrive is a movie by Foster Gamble. You can actually watch it on the Unified TV app. Foster Gamble, Nassim Haramein was in that too. And they proved that the torsion field is the energetic field that is the base of all creation. What that really means is this magical, beautiful, eternal, infinite, no beginning, no end, energetic form is what causes your heart to operate. It's what causes your brain to operate. It's that field that surrounds your entire body when you're healthy. It's that field that surrounds the entire planet, and they've shown that as well. So why does that matter? The reason why that matters is because this is what energy cannot be created or destroyed actually looks like. It's an infinite flow. The question is, how do we recreate it? How do we create a torsion field? Because if we can create the torsion field and have it in our environment for long enough, what's going to happen? You're going to sink to the environment. In this case, a healthy environment, an environment that's balanced, an environment that renders health as opposed to disease. So let's recap before we continue moving forward. Simplistically, how do we create a balanced field of energy in order to sink to that field of energy and reclaim that balance once again in our body? And the answer is, we have to create this. So these towers have two components to simplify it. And if anybody can't see me on Zoom, there's a tower to my right. There's a projector, a monitor here, not a projector, a monitor in the front, and there's a black box behind it. I'm going to draw it so we can all see it and understand what's actually going on. If you're looking at it from the side, you have 1 and 2. We're going to focus on this one for a second. I'm going to simplify it, and then I'm going to explain it, and then I'm going to simplify it again, and then I'm going to explain it in a different way. This black box is called an engine field generator. Basically, what it's doing is it's creating an electromagnetic field. Everybody is familiar with an electromagnetic field? We all radiate them. Human bodies, your phones, all the way to the carpet. Everything, animate, inanimate, alive, not alive, everything's alive one way or another. But everything radiates an electromagnetic field. And here's the simple science behind it. To create this, all you have to do is take one electromagnetic field and create another identical electromagnetic field. And the merging point will create a torsion field. That's the only thing you actually have to memorize today. You take two identical electromagnetic fields, you align them precisely, and the merging point will create what we call tapping into infinity, a torsion field. So every single one of those engine field generators, using, by the way, computer components to create identical electromagnetic fields, every single one of those are precisely aligned to the ones across from it, precisely, to 1/100th of an inch, laser calibrated. And when you have them in multiple points on the room, we're not just creating a 2-point torsion field. In this case, you're creating a 4-point torsion field that's even more stable. But let's not get too complex. In short, we need to create a torsion field. We need to create a balanced field of energy. This is how you create a balanced field of energy. I'm going to give you guys a visualization to understand, to make it a little bit clearer. And I'm going to ask for your interaction on this one. Physics, basic physics. First physics class anybody's ever taken, they'll teach you one thing. You have two identical cars, identical models, identical weights, identical speeds, identical accelerations, precisely aligned, coming at each other. What is going to happen when they hit? Does anybody know? Just a perfect standstill. They're not going to move left. They're not going to move right. They come to a perfect standstill so long as they're the exact same thing, identical and precisely aligned when they hit. Let's go to water for a second. You have two hoses, hose 1 and hose 2. Identical water pressures, identical width, identical everything, precisely aligned. When the water hits, what you're going to see is water going up and water going down, so long as it's precisely aligned. But if you add another 2 hoses, you know what's going to happen? You're going to have water going up, down, left, and right. Why is that relevant? Because when you have water going in those 4 directions, you're creating this field in water. The only problem with water is that it's matter. And matter is impacted by gravity. So the water will fall. But this does not emit water. This is your four hoses, only instead of putting out water, it's putting out light. Another word for light in science is photons, that's what they call them. So when you have precisely aligned, in this case, light hitting each other, and that's going to go to the screen portion, that actual monitor beyond the black box behind it, you're creating a torsion field of light. Basically, in the center of this room, and there's actually a mark somewhere on the floor. The center of that torsion field is right there, and it goes out 2.2 miles in every single direction. And that doesn't just mean left and right, that means up and down as well. It creates a perfect sphere of what they call scalar waves. Has anybody heard of scalar energy, scalar technology? Does anybody actually know what that is? Most people don't. They say, oh, it's a scalar device. Nobody has any idea what they're talking about. And the translation of that in science, and they call it quantum physics. Quantum's another word for we don't know what the hell is going on. That's all it is. They have no clue what's going on. Nobody, because quantum physics is basically something that they can't understand, that's everywhere all the time, instantaneously, simultaneously. Nobody understands how it works because it doesn't adhere to the speed of light. Well, let's break that down for a second. Again, you have two main components here. You have your black box, your engine fuel generator, that will create a field to access a torsion field, creating an environment that your body is now syncing to. And then you have your monitor. But before we go to the monitor, I want to explain something that may be a little bit difficult to understand. I'm going to do it anyways, and we'll keep recapping to make it very, very clear. Does anybody know what the speed of light is? 186,000 miles per second. That's about 8 times around planet Earth if you had a train going around it every single second. Very, very fast. Scientists say you cannot exceed the speed of light. Some. Others have shown that we can. Well, why is that relevant? That's relevant because for so long, we thought that the world looked like this, from 0 to the speed of light. And suddenly we realize that there's something a whole lot faster than it. That's what scalar is. Scalar, simply another word for here, on this side of the equation. And vector is the word for within the reality that we experience. I'm going to give you guys other words to understand that. Spiritual people call this 5D and 3D. Everybody in between calls this non-physical and physical. And here's the problem. Because we've only been taught about this side of the equation, even alternative medicine only focuses, and it's better than the other side of it, because the other side of it focuses on pieces. At least alternative medicine focuses holistically, but this is not holistic medicine. Holistic healing from within is taking into consideration the entire infinite chart. And that's the breakthroughs that we're moving into. We're understanding ourselves in a different way, because if energy cannot be created or destroyed, we must exist on both sides. And this must be an illusion of our perception, but we're not going to get there right now. So in short, this black box is balancing this side of the equation, your scalar side, your 5D side, your non-physical side. But that's not enough, because you're also a physical human being that needs to experience balance in your physical body as well, not just those dimensions of being. And that's where balancing this side of the equation comes in, because a lot of people could say, well, if the scalar field, the torsion field, goes out 2.2 miles, technically you could be, in Great Neck or whatever it is, or Roslyn, or Manassas, and get it. But no, you'll get the scalar. You're not going to get the entire thing, because you need this side as well. And that's why it's important to be in the room with this. Because the screens that you're looking at are then doing the work on this side of the equation. And the way that the screens work are 4-pronged. There's more parts to it, of course. I'm simplifying it to 4 simple, nice, and easy to understand parts. Number 1 is called the Schumann's resonance. Does anybody know what the Schumann's resonance is? Can somebody shout it out? Heartbeat of the planet. Mother guy, I like it. 7.83 hertz. Basically, there's an electrical charge to the ground below. It's not when you're on a carpet. You have to be on the dirt. But there's an electrical charge to this planet, 7.83 hertz. That's your standard base. And all factors of it are in alignment with it. But 7.83 hertz is your base. 7.83 hertz, by the way, is also the electrical charge of your, not the electrical charge, but if you were to measure your body in hertz, that's what the human body is supposed to be as well. So what happens when you're walking barefoot the way that we're supposed to be on this planet, without messing with it and manipulating it? Your body has an exchange, an electrical exchange of energy, because you're an electrical being. So is planet Earth. So the Schumann's resonance, 7.83 hertz, so it doesn't matter if you remember the number or not, is simply the heartbeat of life, as we call it. And we've fallen out of contact with that. Through the transmission that you're seeing on the screen, part of that transmission is 7.83 hertz, transmitting to everybody in this room right now. But it goes a whole lot deeper than that, because that's just the tip of the iceberg. How many of you know what the Fibonacci sequence is? I probably spelled that wrong, or whatever. Can anybody explain what the Fibonacci sequence is?
The seashell is the building blocks of like everything. Formed actually, can't remember the actual ratio, but it's like
So what's your name?
Dave.
Dave Jones. So what he's basically saying, and that was a simplified explanations are good. That's what we need to do. So basically, there's an order to creation. There's an order to how things work. There's an order to this whole thing, and that order is called your Fibonacci sequence. Now I'm going to show you what it is, but please don't. It's not relevant. Okay. What's relevant is the fact that the order of this sequence and the ratio between the numbers is how a flower blooms, if you were to measure it according to fractal mathematics. It's how a tree grows. It's how an embryo develops. It's how cells multiply. It all has the same exact sequence, and somehow scientists say there's no order. It's all random. Stupidest thing I've ever heard. We see it. So the Fibonacci sequence, to make it simple, is technically 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 44, and it keeps going. Now, it sounds like I'm just putting out a bunch of numbers out there, but what's really going on is the last 2 numbers equate to the next one. 1 plus 1 equals 2, 2 plus 3 equals 5, 5 plus 8 is 13, and so on and so forth. So why is that relevant? Because you're seeing movement on these screens, and everybody asks, why is it moving? Why are sometimes they're moving faster? Why sometimes they're moving slower? Why are some moving up? And why are some moving down? Well, that's all in alignment with your Fibonacci sequence in the unit of seconds. To simplify that, sometimes you will see the screen go up, and then out of nowhere it goes down. And then it goes down for a period of time, and then somehow it just goes right back up. That's the program that they put into it according to the Fibonacci sequence. That means, and I don't know what the number of the program ends on, but let's say it ends on 44. That means that when it restarts, you're going to see the screen go up for 1 second, down for 1 second, up for 2 seconds, down for 3 seconds, up for 5 seconds, down for 8 seconds, up for 13, down for 21, up for 44, and the cycle repeats. Does that make sense? So the Fibonacci sequence, the order of that order of the universe, is literally programmed into the light that you're receiving. And the light that you're receiving is really important, because the third point of this whole thing is called, I'm going to give you both portions of it. Technically, it's called photonic collision. Forget about it, throw that in the garbage. Photonic collision just means collision of part of light, of quantums of light. So light hitting itself. Okay, so we're going to call it collision of light. What did we say about cellular charge? Somebody say it out loud. What's the optimal cellular charge in millivolts? 70 to 90 millivolts. And when do you get sick? When it starts going lower, 20 is a very dangerous part. Beautiful. The collision of light is what's creating that charge. So when you have those screens aligned with those screens with light coming off of each and every one of them, the quantums of light, those photons, basically the light, is hitting itself in the center of that room, right where that torsion field is, being created by the box behind it. And that collision of light creates an implosion. That implosion renders a charge, and that charge is 70 to 90 millivolts. And what did we establish for the first thing? You sync to the environment that you're in. You guys right now are sitting in an environment that's charged to 70 to 90 millivolts. The beauty is you can't change that. So if the body's always trying to come into balance, the body has no choice but to charge itself in order to be comfortable again. Because it needs to be in balance, in harmony, in homeostasis with not just the environment inside of it, but with the environment outside of it. This is charging yourselves as you guys are sitting in the room. So when people with autism, when people with cancer, when people that had a stroke, when people that I don't even know all the stories, I learned a lot over the past 12 months that I've never known about. For example, I get the same email over and over and over again from people in different countries all around the world. I don't know what a stroke is like. I've never had that experience with somebody in my immediate family. So I wouldn't know what that looks like, which is good because then I don't have confirmation bias. So all I know is I'm reading these emails and I'm seeing all of them say the same thing. My husband, he's 60, he's 70, he had a stroke, he couldn't really speak after. He's sitting down and always he couldn't raise his hand above his shoulders. I never knew that that was a thing, but they all told me the same thing. He couldn't raise his arms above his shoulders. And we brought him to a system. He was there for 5 or 6 hours and he can raise his hand above his shoulders like no problem. Now, I want to be cautious with what I'm saying right now because I don't want you to hear what I'm saying and think about it like a miracle from God and manna falling from the sky. That's not what's going on here. It's actually very simple. These things aren't miracles. These things are how the body works. You give it the proper environment. Of course, the body will balance itself. It's not a miracle that a person can heal. That's the literal program of the body. That's what it's supposed to do. So when I see all these things, I used to call them miracles in the beginning. I don't anymore. And that has a lot to do with the charge of the room, which is your collision of light. So to go on this again, just to reiterate, you have your light, your photons, your quantums of light, whatever you want to call it, that are hitting each other. And that implosion creates a charge at 70 to 90 millivolts. And the 70 to 90 millivolts will render yourselves to charge from 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 to 60 to eventually 70 or 90 based on where your body is at. And from there, you will then have an environment where disease cannot exist. In other words, this is not a medical device. This is not healing you. We've been programmed to think things outside of us heal us. They don't. Doctors don't heal you. Medicines don't heal you. They create a sort of trigger for your body to do what it does best, which is heal itself. Doctors are supposed to be teachers. They're facilitators of health. A healer means I help you heal yourself. That's exactly what this technology is doing. It's helping you, giving you the proper environment to heal yourself. So again, you got your Schumann's resonance, your Fibonacci sequence, your collision of light, and then the last one, which is my favorite one, is color. Who actually knows what color is? Can somebody explain that to me? This is when we talk out loud. Can somebody explain that to me? Huh? Spectrum of light, spectrum of energy. The way that color works, it's something you can Google. If you go on the color spectrum on Google and you go to Google Images, you're going to see a graph. And that graph is going to be measured in something called nanometers. And none of that is relevant. The only thing you have to know is the difference between red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet is a frequency. It's an energy. It's a resonance. That's all. That's all. The difference between red and purple is the length of a wavelength in nanometers. But in short, these are different energies. Now, here's a cool thought. Have you ever seen how Eastern medicine has a map of the body versus how Western medicine has a map of the body? Western medicine calls it the endocrine system and the pulmonary system, the cardiovascular system, and the X, Y, and Z system and all that. And Eastern medicine is no different. They just use a different language to explain it. Almost like different religions have wars because they don't understand they're all saying the same thing with a different story and a different name and a different person. It's the same exact thing, and we've forgotten that. So in Eastern medicine, they call it chakras. You have your 7 main points. And it's not a coincidence that it's an order. Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. That's for your root. Orange, yellow, green is your heart, blue is your throat, your communication, your thyroid, indigo, and violet. And people look at that and they say, it's a bunch of nonsense. It's not nonsense. They just understood something that we're still behind on today. And here's the genius of what we understood thousands of years ago and has been taken out of our education system because it would free a lot of people from disease. Disease is a very big business, just like viruses in your computer are a big business. By the way, the same guy that created viruses in your computer is the same guy that's profiting off of viruses in your body. And his name is Bill Gates. Let's just get that one straight. But with color, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet.
Those are the 7 colors of the rainbow.
Yes, and it's not, because that is the spectrum of light that we can perceive as a normal human being. I say normal human being because behind this, I believe there are microwaves, and after this, or it might be after, I don't know, and after this, there are gamma waves and gamma rays and all that. It doesn't mean they don't exist, we just can't perceive it with our current limitations of our awareness. But we're not going to go there right now. We can go there into the Q&A later if you guys want. Point over here is this is a spectrum of light. And when they said your heart is green, which also connects to your lungs, and listen to this one carefully because it's interesting and it's a fact. And your third chakra is your solar plexus, which is yellow. Here's what they understood. They understood the optimal frequency of every single one of the parts and systems of the body that Western medicine calls the endocrine system and the cardiovascular system, the pulmonary system, and so on and so forth. The genius that they simplified back then was understanding the optimal energy of each part of the body that's expressed in what we experience as a color. Because color is energy. We'll take it one step further. Does that mean that your food is just by chance a certain color? Because it just so happens to be that your heart and your lungs need green foods to fix them. Real foods. I'm not talking about something in a laboratory or man-made. And it just so happens to be that your digestive system needs yellow foods. And that's your mangoes and your pineapples and your lemons in your water and your bananas. All those things are very good for your digestion. And it's not a coincidence. It's because there is an order in the world. And this is a part of it. Now, just to remind all of you, everything we're talking about here has to do with this side of the equation. We need to rebalance this side of the equation just like we did this. And if you could do that, you fix the formula. Fixing the formula brings you to your natural state. And your natural state is called health, not disease. It's not just the way it is. If it was just the way it is, flu season would be in the animal kingdom as well. It's not. It just so happens to be a very good business for certain people all around the world. And we run and just say, okay, let's go get this thing because it makes sense. It doesn't make sense. Albert Einstein, the same person that defied what everybody thought was real, he had a famous quote that I love. He says, look deep into nature and you'll understand everything better. You don't got to look that deep. Just look at nature for a second. They don't have the. So are we really the most advanced medically? Or could we be advanced in certain levels with our technology, minus the spiritual component? You know what happens when you're technologically advanced and spiritually immature? You wipe yourself out. You kill yourself because you cannot handle the things that you're being given, almost like giving a 5-year-old a car that's never driven before. There's no match over there. You need to balance both sides of the equation, the spiritual and the physical. And spiritual is not a woo-woo word. It just means something that is not in the realm of frequency that we can touch. That's what spiritual means. That's it. And there are laws to that world. And we're learning those laws in quantum physics right now. And we knew those laws a long time ago. That's how they built the pyramids. That's how they did things that we don't know today. Because they were advanced on this side of the equation as well. So back to color. If color is a form of healing, it's a form of therapy. What is the primary function of DNA? Does anybody know the primary function of DNA? It's the storage of light, the storage of photons. That is the primary function of DNA, the storage of photons. That means that if you give your body coherent light, it will express coherency. And if you give it distorted light, it will express distortion. What you're looking at over here on the fourth part of what these monitors are doing are an expression of coherent color, of coherent energy on this side of the spectrum that we perceive as color, because that's what color is. And as it fills this room, photons fill rooms more than water does. Because water is bigger in terms of its molecule than a photon. Photon can fit through every light. So with that light, that filling the room, bouncing off the walls, doing everything that it's doing, is literally storing in your photons as we speak. And just like when you eat food, your DNA also has something called the storage of photons, which we spoke about. When you eat that green food, is it just by chance that it knows to send the proper energy to rebalance this part of the body to its optimal frequency? No, it's the intelligence of the body. It's how it works. So it's doing exactly how the food does it. It's doing exactly what music can do. Because technically, if you take color, which is in the unit of nanometer, listen to this one closely, it's interesting. If you take color, which is in the units of nanometers, and you convert it to hertz, then music also has a color. Because music is measured in hertz. So 432 hertz, does anybody know what that's good for? What part of the body? I believe it's your heart, if I'm not mistaken. That's a conversion from whatever wavelength the expression of green is into hertz is your music that will help you heal. You see, this simple awareness will change everything you do. It will change the way that you eat. It will change the music that you listen to. It will change the way that you speak. It will change the words that you choose to use. It will change the art on your wall, because all of those things are important. They're all making you who you are. And it's not just a cliche. They're literally making you who you are, scientifically, physically, spiritually, on all realms. So in short, the fourth component of this whole thing is your color. And your color is using photons, which DNA stores in a coherent way, to send it to the rest of your body in the proper places, because green will help balance a different place than yellow, and so on and so forth. And from there, your body will be given the proper things it needs to heal itself, as opposed to thinking the illusion that we've been programmed to understand that this or something outside of you is healing you. That's not how it works. So we're going to recap. You got your environment that you sync to, and you got energy cannot be created or destroyed. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. The implication of that is a torsion field. Torsion field is energy that moves in all directions simultaneously, all the time, instantaneous, eternal, no beginning, no end. Again, creating the torsion field is done through the engine field generator behind that screen. Your black box, part one of this diagram. And when you take identical electromagnetic fields and you align them precisely and you merge them, what does it create? Say it out loud. And why is a torsion field important? Go back to environment, say it out loud. We gotta be louder. We gotta be louder. We're not gonna go easy over here. We gotta be louder. What does the torsion field cause with your environment? Synchronization. Beautiful. So with that, part one takes care of that, and part two emits your 7.83 hertz, emits your perfect sequence of order that's been proven. None of what I'm talking about here are theories. Creates photonic collision or collision of light, which creates what? Somebody say it. We didn't do good. What does the collision of light in this room create when they hit each other? Nope. Torsion field is with your electromagnetic field. Photonic collision creates what? Electrical charge. An electrical charge at what spectrum? And what's the sick part of the spectrum? At what millivolt? And the optimal part of the spectrum is at what millivolt? And being in this room creates what? Keep going. We're not dead people in here. Everybody laugh. 70 to 90 millivolts. So the short 20 to 30-second elevator pitch is what? You got this. The short elevator pitch is what? Somebody raise their hand and do it. Otherwise, we're going to be here all night.
Create your environment. It creates a balanced, healthy environment so that your body can heal itself. It's very simple. And you do that by creating the environment and let the DNA heal itself through the charges, the pH, the electrical.
Let's make it simple. Let's make it simpler. Focus on one thing: electrical charge, cellular charge. Health starts from within. This is the most important part. You walk out with nothing today, you got to walk out with this, or I failed my job and I don't fail. So we're going to succeed. If you have, your health starts from within your cells. Your cells emit an electrical charge. High electrical charge creates what? Low electrical charge creates what? And putting yourself in an environment with a high electrical charge between 70 to 90 millivolts creates what? Because of what? Beautiful. We did a great job. This is awesome. Okay, so that's your short pitch. Electrical charge cells, high charge health, low charge disease, charge the cells, no more environment for disease to exist. Make sense? Okay. And then over here, as we said, you balance the other side of the equation. So big picture, screw the speed of light because it doesn't actually exist. It exists because of our perception. It's called the speed of perception, where our awareness ends for the most part. So forget about the speed of light. There's one spectrum here. And because we've divided it into two, we call scalar and vector 5D and 3D. Holistic health has, even holistic health, I'm calling them that too, has mainly focused on better than what most health establishments do, because most of them just focus on pieces of this. At least holistic health takes in the whole spectrum, but it's not enough. We need to balance all sides because we exist everywhere. That's what the proof is showing us. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. That's exactly what we are. So we need to balance that side and that side. Your engine field generator, the black box behind that screen, creates a torsion field to balance your scalar, your 5D, your non-physical. And the screen, the monitor in front of it, through these 4 points and a whole lot more, but we're not going to go into that today, balances your vector, your 3D, and your non-physical and your physical. And when you balance both, you experience health over disease. The world that we live in right now has told us that we are helpless to our diseases. It's told us that if you have cancer, you're done. And you need to do one of three things by law: surgery, chemo, radiation. If a doctor tells you to do anything other than that, that doctor can get its license taken away. Now let's think for a second with the brains that God gave us. If those are the only three ways to go about healing cancer, or curing cancer, or dealing with cancer, and we've only seen cancer rising over the past 50 years, could there be something wrong with the picture? Do you guys understand how big these industries are? Do you guys understand that, and I'm not going to say names, but there are certain people in this room that were banned from hospitals because every single time they would walk in, that person would walk out. And that hospital would lose that potential $250,000 or more through that chemotherapy. We have to accept and acknowledge that we live in a corrupt world right now. And I'm not here to rain darkness on everybody. I'm here to say, let's focus on where are the problems so we can fix them. And you don't fix them by fighting them. You fix them by creating something else. That's what unified TV is. That's what unified healing is. It's a shift in perspective. We don't say anymore, how do I fight my disease? We don't say anymore, how do I kill my cancer? Because that's not going to solve anything. You focus on changing the environment that your disease thrived in. And if you change just those three things, and even more simply, just one of those three things, your cellular charge, your pH, or your oxygen level in your body, one will reflect all others, rendering an environment that disease cannot live in anymore. Stop focusing on the darkness and focus on how to create an environment where that simply cannot exist. And the last analogy I'll give, imagine walking into a dark room and trying to punch it, trying to fight it. It's not gonna work. And all you do is flip that light switch. And when you flip that light switch, what happens? All the darkness goes away. You didn't have to fight anything. You didn't have to resist anything. You didn't have to do anything other than forget about the darkness. Focus on the light. Focus on what we can do. Focus on what we actually are. That means from victimhood into I am a creator. I'm creating this reality. And you do that not just by action, but by consent. And when you're silent about certain things that you see, just because it doesn't impact you, believe me, it's going to impact you one day. COVID was a blessing because of that reason. Because it was one of the first things that caused an entire global problem. And the consequence of a global issue is a global response. And a global response happens in two ways. One, with certain people that want to control you, and two, with groups of people that are waking up. So there's a beauty in what's going on right now, but we have to shift our perception. We have to shift the way that we see things. And when it comes to health, it's very, very simple. Just focus on the environment that you are living in. Focus on the sanctuary that you've been given. And when you can do that, when you can enjoy that, when you can balance that, and balance is a big thing, because that does not mean to resist all of your desires. That means to enjoy them until you rise above them. We can talk about that later as well. Enjoy your life. You're not here to go crazy. I'm talking to myself too. I get stressed all the time. But you're here to enjoy. You're here to give. You're here to receive. You're here to do all of these things. And you're definitely not here to be sick. I'll tell you that. That's not a normal thing. So if you guys are ready to step into this, it's not enough for just you guys to understand this. You need to share this with them. Don't just sit there and wait for people like me to do it. Quite frankly, it pisses me off. Tell you the truth. Because the point of what I need to do, the reason why I travel, the reason why I'm so passionate is because we need more people to stand up. It can't just be a few leaders speaking loud. We need everybody to hear what we're saying and then become us. A leader doesn't count its followers. A leader counts the number of people that person can turn into leaders. That's a measure of success, not anything else. So when you walk out of here today, make a decision on what you want to do with your health. Do you want to sit here and say, it doesn't really matter and deal with paying pharma later? Or do you want to sit here and take care of yourself? Because when you radiate a healthier energy, when you radiate a healthier field, when you radiate a healthier aura, you impact other people around you. And just by being that, others will become that as well. I ask you all today, choose that decision, make that decision, go in the proper direction. Things like this can help a lot of people. I see it every day. I don't just travel and speak and lose my voice because I'm bored. I do this because I see how many people it helps. I do this because I see how many children it helps. I do this because I see people that were in wheelchairs that can stand up. And at first, it was called a miracle. And today, in my world, it's called reality. Somebody calls me, happens often. They're so excited. They're like, wow, this happened to my son. They don't understand why I'm not excited. You wouldn't be excited if I told you, wow, I just, the red light turned green. Right? Of course the red light turns green. That's the way it is. Green light turns red. Because that's the way things work. We're moving into a beautiful world. And we can move there a whole lot quicker if we did that. We can move a whole lot quicker if we come together, if we spread that awareness. Don't push it down people's throats. Just be who you want to be. Believe me, when you come here enough and you radiate that light, people will start asking you, what are you doing? You're glowing. And they're not gonna wait for you to push something down their throat. They're gonna say, what's that person doing? I wanna do it too. Because they see the results, because they feel the results, because they experience the results. And everybody's different in terms of what they experience. So again, I wanna close this off with asking you not just to hear my words, but to take action. Because if words are not taken action on, we all wasted our time today. We all wasted our time today. As a matter of fact, that's how it works. There's a spectrum broken up into 3 parts. And it's thought, words, and matter. And the difference between the thought of this marker, the word this marker, and the matter of this marker is nothing but a frequency. So sitting here today, we've taken thoughts and we've turned them into words. We need to complete the cycle. And you complete the cycle when you take those words and you turn them into action. And that's why we all need to do something to make that happen. So raise your hand if you're going to do something to make that happen. Somebody's hand isn't raised, we're going to have a problem here. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate you guys. We can run the question. Now, who has questions? Yes. Yes. Thank you.
I was, when I was in college, used
You want to stand up so people can hear you?
Yeah. Had to take an elective course. Right, I don't know what made me do this. I took a physics course. Right, I have my degree in anthropology and archaeology. I have no idea why I did that. And for 50 years, I had a very good professor. And I used to sit there with my eyes glazed over because I didn't know numbers and where infinity and all of that we're talking about. So, and again, I still don't know why I took it, but today you made me know why I took it. He explained to me that a lot of people don't get big numbers and infinity and all of that. And he said one thing, and I heard you say it once before, just remember, it's easier to remember the universe and big things, everything adds up to you.
Yes.
And you said that, and it was, I didn't know for 50 years what that meant until you explained it.
First of all, thank you for sharing. Thank you. There are only 7 things you have to know everything else. Okay? We live in a world where, imagine there's a tree, big tree, 1,000 years old. There's a lot of branches on this tree. We've been stuck on the branches. We forgot that there's one trunk that it all comes out of. And if you know the composition of the trunk, you know the composition of the branches. You don't have to be a genius to figure it out. You have to know 7 foundational laws. That's part of the book that I wrote. It's called Forming the Formless. I think you guys have it here, yeah? Forming the Formless is a book teaching you those laws of foundational laws. We don't have it here. Foundational laws that teach you, if you know these few things, everything else will add up.
Studying archaeology all my life. Everything that I have now is about energy.
Yes.
Where the monuments are on the ley lines and all that, and how they built the pyramids and people. So 50 years, but it's made sense.
It's awesome.
Fascinating, though.
Thank you for sharing. Anybody? Yes.
Hi, Tamara. Jason, thank you so much for the incredible work that you've been doing. I fell in love with Dr. Sandra and the lights September 21. And then I kind of lost track and I didn't know what you were doing until I met Michelle in Southern Miami in April. And I had a sleepover because I was like freaking out. And this is my 4th center. And I then became aware of you and I saw you in Verona with Jeffrey. And I'm now a member of Unified. I did my truth bombs this weekend while I was cleaning out my closets. And everything that I'm learning through Dr. Sandra and what you speak about has been connected to my childhood and it that feeling of truth inside. And I too was an anthropology archaeology major and always wanted to take physics, but thought I
I've never heard that.
too stupid to take physics. But I always
Now,
question,
you're stupid to teach it.
right, I always questioned since I was little, my mother would yell at me, why can't we combine? Like, well, what I called religion, what I meant spiritualism, but I was like 7, that with science, and now we're 100 years anniversary of the Scopes trial, and that made such an impact on me, why can't
What's the
we?
Scopes trial? I don't know
The
what that
monkey
is.
trial, when he started teaching evolution in the southern Bible Belt, and it was outlawed, and he got thrown out and fired and got put in jail, so there was a big trial, and it's a fabulous story, it's a true story. It's 100 years of that, and I always wondered, why can't we combine? How is it possible that we can be in this spiritual world and have this science and have it not combined? I studied at photobiomodulation, nutrition, health, and during COVID, early on, I was trying to speak to people saying, listen, we have this world platform and they're effing it up hardcore, but there's some are rising up. So there is beauty in these weeds, but a lot of it missed it and it went down even harder. So I thank you so much. I have a lot of questions, but what I try and explain to my friends and people who want to listen, you know where I get caught in the stuff I get in my head. How do I explain to people about how the scalar resonance travels the 2.2 miles? Like, if they're not getting the photonic benefits, what kind of benefits are they getting by being in the proximity of the centers of this technology? How do I explain that to them?
The technology is shown to decrease crime rates in places that it exists. There's a reason for that, because crime is also a form of a reflection of distortion. It's basically what it is. You know, when you say, I want to kill somebody or rape or whatever it may be, that's a distorted field of energy. That's not something that's a normal, innate thing. And that happens when there's an issue or an imbalance mentally, spiritually, whatever it may be. So in short, it goes back to environment, this part, and your torsion field. The scalar field that you're talking about basically creates a torsion field. Why 2.2 miles? Because that's what they've measured. But I think it's called an oscilloscope, some fancy technology. It's still very, very difficult to accurately measure basically scalar fields. We're not that advanced yet. So with the advancements that we do have, we've read it to 2.2 miles in every direction. Probably more than that, I think. Can't prove that. You can prove the 2.2 miles. But in short, through studies, that's what it's shown to radiate, 2.2 miles in all directions. And the result of that is creating a balanced torsion field, which is the beginning of all health, basically, because that's who you are. I mean, if you were born in a perfect world, everything would operate according to this field right here. That's what the movie Thrive shows. You should watch it on Unified if you haven't already.
And is it transmuting the 5G?
Yes, and
Or to a degree.
I like that you brought that up because a lot of people think it blocks 5G. It doesn't block. It doesn't block anything. That's an old way of looking at this. Okay, blocking means no, it does not block. Blocking means it creates a shield. No, protect is also not a good word because protect implies a shield. It's not creating a shield. It's basically the more advanced version of us now understands that instead of creating a shield and saying, leave it all out there, think about that. That's a consciousness of division. That's here and there. No, there's one field that everything's on. Question is, how do we transmute negative distorted energy into positive coherent energy? When something comes in contact with this, basically think about it like, imagine there are 5G. 5G basically stands for fifth generational technology. Take about 50 to 60 hertz. Okay, so take that frequency and drill it towards my head. When you're in a room like this and it's drilling towards the center, every time it comes towards it, it's not going to bounce off like it deflects or goes away. It's still going to come in, but the second it comes in contact with this field, it will transmute and go from a distorted field to a coherent field. So it's taking the dirty and cleaning it.
Will that also pass through like sheetrock? I mean, I'm just.
Scalar field passes through everything because scalar is on this side of the equation. Anything faster than the speed of light has no limitations of time and space. So scalar field basically goes through the entire planet Earth, goes through everything because it supersedes the speed of matter. Make sense? I'll say it again. What didn't you
No,
understand?
it does make sense, but I was just kind of wondering, because in my house, I've got an electric meter on the side of the house and then underneath the basement, they've got one of those 5G meters.
Okay.
And you go in there with.
Very bad. In your basement.
It's like right underneath the bedroom. So you go into the bedroom and it's like.
I wouldn't sleep there.
It's like, I know. I was like,
Well, yeah, what can she do to take that out?
EMFSOL.com.
Okay, EMFSOL.com.
Ask for Kathy.
what is it?
Ask for Kathy. I'd say that maybe sure can send you. Let me write that down. What was it? EMFSOL.com? Okay, EMFSOL.com, Kathy Manning. I read the whole thing. All righty. Let's keep going, yes.
Presentation you just gave, can this be viewed on Unified TV?
If I can get it, yeah, I mean, it's recorded right now. We could take it, we'll put it on Unified.
I think that would be a good idea.
It's on his YouTube channel.
Yes, I have a shorter, it's a 35 to 40 minute presentation. You want this? I gotta get you this. I'll get you this. You'll see, you have the app on your phone?
Yes.
Okay,
We
so,
have to have it on our-
so you're gonna get a push notification on your phone in about 3 days saying, it's out. What's your name?
Jerry.
Say Jerry.
Okay.
Yes,
Not regarding this.
Yeah.
But have you finished your training for TLS?
I don't think you could finish something like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
And is he?
No. no. Yes. He said, just to read, I'm sorry, just to read, he said, have I finished my training with TLS? My answer was, I don't think you could finish something like that. And he asked if Ray is here, and I said, no. Next question. Like a stone. Yes. I think what is it, the highest carbon content, right? You told me that.
No. It is spoken about very similarly. It's, they use certain metals along with some carbon material and acting very.
There we go.
It's organized with a specific pattern, and it's also supposed to attenuate or transmute electrical energy.
So I'm not an expert on organizing.
I was just wondering.
Oh, cool. I've heard of it. I just don't know all the in-depth things about it. Yes.
They put in a measure of the millivolts of the body so that you know where you are.
Yes, Tony Robbins has a certain device. I have to ask him the name of it. She asked if there's a way to measure the millivoltage of your body and of an environment, by the way, not just your body. There is, he spoke about it in the interview. I need to get the name. I'll get the name and maybe I'll put it in the description, but just so solfeggio frequencies. No, but she wants an actual device to measure
Test on that, and it'll tell you how many hertz you want.
through a phone.
Yeah.
Does it come with an external device?
No, just answer like 5 simple questions.
Okay. Okay. Very cool. I've never heard of something like that. I know usually the ones, yeah. So solfeggio, probably? Sure. Share with me, I'll write it on the board. Yes.
I loved your speech, very inspiring. I wanted to know what would be like symptoms that we feel if we're an average healthy person. I love holistic, I'm a holistic healer myself. And I love it, this looking at it for me, honestly, was so like intense.
You don't have to look at it.
Not close at it.
Yes, yes.
But what would you feel different that you know that you're being more balanced?
You know, I don't think that there's a way to answer that directly because your body is different than my body. I can tell you that if you want to look at like a big picture, most people that would come into a center like this would usually fall asleep pretty quickly. I'm just keeping you guys engaged, but if you came here and nobody was speaking, you would usually fall asleep. I see that happen many, many times. By the way, sleep is a very, very good time to experience this. Overnights, in my opinion, are the most powerful things that you can do. Because with overnight sessions, number one, you're internalizing energy in your body. So what happens when you sleep? Your body has time to recover. your body has time to heal. So imagine sleeping, but on steroids in the best way possible, because now you're in a balanced environment. It's creating everything that we spoke about, and you're not on your phone. You're not thinking about your to-do list. Your energy is internalized completely. So sleeping is a very, very good time to do this thing. Like,
And how much is the minimum time that you would actually feel some kind of effect?
there are some people that feel it right away. I personally wouldn't go less than 2 hours. Now, that's why, by the way, the membership program that we created together over here, that again, I want to see other centers bring this on in like a universal way, that $180 a month gives you that 2 hours per day, every day unlimited. So that's the idea. And then I'm sure in a couple months, it's going to evolve and change and do all that, but that's where the number came from.
This has been around for how long?
1996. I heard about it a year ago. Crazy, huh? Yeah. It's been around since 1996, and then I was sent to interview Dr. Sandra Rose Michael by some people that I work with. To be honest, I didn't want to go. I was not excited. I wanted to relax. I didn't understand this. I really looked at it and I'm like, what's going on here? You know, and it was really just a lack of my awareness. It was a lack of my knowledge. I didn't understand it. But once I started seeing, here's what got me. At first, my aunt, where is she? She's somewhere here. Talia, can you come? Put her on the spot. Come here. Come here. So this woman is responsible for everything that's going on here today. She's a great woman. She brought me this microphone. My birthday.
His birthday is.
And you can go. I don't want the messages. And basically, long story short, I share this because of the public story already, but she had a 12.5 centimeter cystic fibroid, 13.5 centimeter cystic fibroid in her uterus, and through this technology, it was a big factor that helped her throughout the process with other things that she did, which, by the way, we should speak about. Protocols, detoxes, things like that is a very, very important point. But basically, how did I get to you? Talk about something. Oh, no, I know why I was saying that, because what got me was when it happened to her, I like being skeptical first. And my first thing was, maybe it's just a placebo, which doesn't negate it, but I don't know that this thing has an objective effect. I didn't know that a year ago. I just knew that somebody that I know is not lying to me because it's my aunt, she has no motive, went in, came out a few hours later, and really had amazing results. So at first I was skeptical, and I said, could just be placebo. I didn't buy it, let's put it that way. A few days later, my sister's dog had a 4 centimeter, it was like a tumor in his neck, basically. 4.5. 4.5 centimeter tumor in his neck, and basically within 3 nights, he slept in a 24-unit system like this for 3 nights. At the time this wasn't open, it was in Verona, New Jersey, and 3 days later, the thing was gone. So I could say placebo all I want on a human being, but it's a dog. So that's what really got me onto the path. I said, listen, there's something here that I don't understand. And I'll tell you the truth, even after the dog, I said, I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. And then one thing led to another, and you know, I met the inventor and I spoke to her and it kept going. And then I started seeing the testimonials. Today, there are hundreds of centers for a reason, because people are sharing stories. They're sharing testimonials. There's research out there. There's more research being done now. We're doing research, I think, in Belgium, if I'm not mistaken. It's starting in probably the next 6 months. And now the beauty over here is when you look at the medical industry, and you probably know this because of what you do, there's a lot of financial motive. You know, who are the people? You always see conflicts of interest everywhere. Investors, stock price, all those things. EESYSTEM, I don't have a stake in it. So we're all aware. I have 0 stake in EESYSTEM. What EESYSTEM does is privately within EESYSTEM, that's the Energy Enhancement System, meaning there's no investors, there's no outside people, they're a family-owned business. I came in, I ruled their life in the best way possible. Because I interviewed them and it kept going and it kept going and it kept going. And then now they had to expand everything, you know, but you're talking about something that started in a very normal way. There were no big backers there. There was no big money there. There was no anything. And now they don't have to sit there and say, we need money. they're actually able to do things in a coherent and like with integrity, because they don't need anything from something outside of them anymore. So, all those things really gave me a lot more everything in this whole process of what's been going on. It's been awesome. Yes.
Yeah, how does this technology evolve since 1996, and what are they working on against?
So 1996, I was not alive. Don't know what they look like. But yeah, I'll tell you, when I was doing the Tony Robbins interview, I saw he has a smaller unit in his house. The problem was his unit was covered with plexiglass. When you cover something in plexiglass, what happens when you take a laser and try to shoot it through glass or plexiglass, it refracts. So you're moving coherent light to a distortion to an extent. So he has, you'll actually see it in a video in the interview. He has like a massage salt room. It's like a meditation room as well. And on top are all the screens. What I saw is the code on the screen looks a little bit different, but almost the same. And there were smaller screens. So from what I've seen, generally smaller screens, they never used to make 24 units. When Tony got it, the biggest one was a 16 unit. And then now they're getting bigger. There are some places that have 48 units. And now we have to do the studies to see how those things work, what's going on over here. But the main understanding right now is coherent energy produces coherent energy. It will produce that expression. But in short, smaller screens and a little bit of a different visual code of what I personally saw. What's the hesitancy?
I understand these rays differ from the rays you saw at Tony Robinson's.
Oh, no.
Aside from the screens.
Oh, no, it's just it's a bigger thing to test. Say it again?
Just the size of it.
Like it's more visually appealing. What it does stay the same. Are they working on like other things to the code? I think so. I don't know. I don't know if that changed. I don't know the answer to that question. But from what I've seen, basically it was just a less appealing. And by the way, the next version of these are going to be very different. The next version that's being worked on right now is going to be without all of these things that if you look at hurt your head. That I know is because it's like, you look at that, it's distracting. So I know that Michael, the CEO, which pretty much Sandra's son, Dr. Michael's son, who took over and pretty much, is running the whole thing since he was 16. He's 39 now. But he's working on a next model that it's not about changing the use, it's about changing the aesthetic of it, because the use is great. So we'll see where it goes. Yeah, yes.
If someone signs up here, can we go to the one, the center in Manhattan?
No, two different things. Yeah, those are two completely different centers on the same network. Unified TV members get 10% off at all the centers on the network, unless there's already a discount that's going. So like today, I think they're giving you 20% off. They're doing the membership prices and all that. So I would take advantage of it if I were you. It's something that is great.
And are we building other centers in our city? Like Bronx?
I don't want to open more just yet until we can justify demand. It would be irresponsible. I have about 400 people on a waiting list that say we're ready to go, but can't do that. We got to do it slower. Yes.
Okay, so based on the presentation today, this should help all physical conditions, right? Not just specific conditions.
Yes, but you have to be careful with how you say that, because this isn't helping your physical condition. Okay, it cannot be seen as because it's not legally, and what it actually is, it is not a medical device. It is something, think about it as a device, which is what it is, that promotes balance in the body. And balance in the body renders a balanced environment. It renders a body that will not experience all those problems. So people say, okay, well, is it good for, strokes? Is it good for this? Is it good for that? I can tell you on a personal basis, from what I've seen, all the emails and the testimonials and everything that we're receiving through Unified Healing, there's literally not one thing that we haven't heard of. There are some days where I hear about diseases or ailments that I've never heard of before, and it keeps going. So, to tell you that we know every ailment under the sun, no, there's probably many of them. But in short, I've basically seen everybody share a testimonial from the main 20, if you want to call it. And when somebody says, well, is it good for this? Is it good for this? Again, it goes back to your torsion field. You create a balanced environment, your body will rebalance itself. Doesn't matter what's going on, your body will rebalance itself. Is the EE system the answer to everything? No, that's not what I'm telling you. The EE system is a piece of an equation. If you think you're gonna walk into here and then leave and eat McDonald's and drink Coca-Cola, you're fooling yourself. It doesn't work like that. You need to do certain things in general. It's holistic health. Right? People think about this narrative of med meds. Walk in, scan, fix me like in the movies, walk out, everything's fine. But it's deeper than that. It's deeper than that because we are literally multidimensional beings. We exist in many different ways, through many different frequencies, many different parts of us. And look at the difference between your dream reality and your awake reality. You're aware of both of them, only different. So it's taking all parts of the spectrum and rebalancing yourself on all parts of the spectrum. The food that you eat, the water that you consume, the radiation that you allow to come in contact with you. All of these things are extremely, extremely important, and this will promote what it is that you're doing. But I cannot call it, it's not the thing that's fixing you. It's you that's fixing you, and that's a very empowering truth, by the way. When you understand that you're the one that fixes you, you don't need to run outside of you and say, come fix me. You see, you guys just got tools today that shows you through breath work, you can change your life. You're breathing. It's like fuel. Think about it like a car. A faster car needs more vents because the engine needs air. If you choke that thing, it's not going to move as fast. Same thing with your body. Breathe in through your nose. The air, literally the oxygen will go to your brain. It's direct passage with your nose, closest to your brain. Breathe through that. Your nose has hairs because it's a filter. There's a filter there that doesn't exist in your mouth. So especially if you're in New York City, it's one big town. You know, but it's all those things that we got to look at it from all sides of the spectrum. Yes.
So we're talking about the environment. We all know that the electronics is a bad environment, and we all know that how that affects us. And they do have their own chakras or their own color that is gray, that is dead.
Okay.
So using electronics to get what we explained,
Beautiful question.
it's to get
Mhm.
how will change that impact of electronic. I know, I'm not against electronics. I'm a web designer, so I'm not against electronics, yes.
Yeah.
But they can go to help or not.
Beautiful. So you just answered your own question.
Well, I don't know how technically,
With this specifically,
when
you're
you
saying.
specifically, you cut the bad environment that affect us. When we know, and I see that in all the products and everything that you have, you put energy in the stones, natural stones, and other things that actually we know that is natural from Mother Gaia and
Yes.
from our world. So this is not natural.
Mhm.
In using this unnaturally will impact, because when we are talking now about the synchronicity between all those TVs around and us, and everything colors that and everything that moves is not natural for our human body, how that impact, but actually you very nice and very well explain there that it should be like that, and I'd love to 100% to be like that without the negative
Absolutely.
impact of the rest.
This part over here, once you create that merging point precisely, line creates something called a null zone. A null zone through your torsion field will nullify everything that you just said. So like you said, there is a positive and productive way to use technology and a negative way to use technology. Take even your iPhone. Your iPhone doesn't need to be a negative thing. The negative part of our network is the hertz and the energy that it's tuned to. That means that if we can create technology, use technology with the awareness of the laws of creation, that technology will be a beautiful thing. This is created according to the laws of creation, like your torsion field, your law of conservation. But to answer your question in short, it creates a null zone, and that null zone or 0 point energy is what your torsion field is, takes all of what you just said out. That we're used to thinking, ooh, technology radiation, because all of our technology, our laptops, our computer, our phones, everything that we use is not built according to the laws of creation.
I'm not saying that it is creating that energy, is taking energy from us.
How'd you get to that conclusion?
Well, it's not a natural thing. I am a
Is
natural.
a vitamin D pill natural? No, but you live in a world where in New York, most people are vitamin D deficient. So when you live in an unnatural world, you will need to use certain stepping stones that are unnatural to get to your main thing. By the way, homeopathic homeopathic medicine comes from that. In the Torah, in Hebrew, they call it domeh bedomeh, meaning homeopathic energy takes garbage to fix garbage. It takes a small vaccines also, in theory, forget what they did with them, takes the antigen, eats it up, gives it to you in a much, and I'm simplifying, it gives it to you in a much, much lower dose and hopes your body will be able to create the antibodies for that. But homeopathic medicine is literally taking the garbage, the toxin, and giving it back to you. Why? Because when you're sick, you use the sickness to heal you. That's where the cure actually exists. And we've been doing that for thousands of years. So in short, what you're saying is very, very valid. But the big picture over here is when you live in an unnatural environment, you're going to need to do unnatural things in order to rebalance that, to come back to that creation once again.
Another question about the doors. This exists already,
The torsion field.
yes,
Okay,
around us, everybody, any objects, everything have that.
it's not true.
Actually.
No.
Okay, but it's true that we have it.
No, you have it in your natural state.
In my natural state.
Yes,
That's
so,
why I'm saying
yes,
in my natural state,
so the
I
point
have-
of this is to help you reclaim it. Now, do you need the EES to do that? No. Here's the beautiful thing about this technology. The point of this technology is to become obsolete. We'll know that we've succeeded when not one person needs to come to any of these centers ever again, because you don't need some technology to bring you to that point. You should be able to do it yourself because you are the technology. You work according to those laws of creation. But in a world that needs those stepping stones, this is not a destiny. This is a stepping stone that must become obsolete. What does Big Pharma say? They say you're going to need to depend on us for the rest of your life. The point of this is to make EESYSTEM bankrupt because nobody will ever need it.
Okay, another question. for you.
Yes, and then we're going to have to go because
Yes,
there are
I
people
know,
raising
I know.
hands. Yes.
Another question for you. So you said that goes 2 miles across or whatever. It goes a lot more than 2 miles across from my perspective, but.
I think so too. I'm just talking about what they measure. Yes.
So, do you guys have in mind to make a fleet?
That's what we're doing right now. It's earth acupuncture. That's what I call it. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then we'll go to you, Michael. Can you stand up so we can hear you? And Megan, can you get them to be quiet because it's hard to focus?
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
On the topic of it, she asked about the what's good for the community.
Yeah.
That's sent me an article on this positive news channel, and I think it started in 2023. All the kinds of major cities have been reducing and going down, and it's like happening across the US and a little bit in the UK. And I was like, I wonder how much of that has to do with the fact that we rolled this out starting a year ago.
Is that, what's it called, the Haramachi effect or something like that? Haramachi effect, I think I'm pronouncing, do you know the name, Haramachi effect? Okay, there's an effect named after some master in Asia somewhere. And basically, the effect shows that when a certain number of people, critical mass of people, whatever that is, meditate for a period of time. This happens in Thailand once a year. 1 million people come together to do this for the next 24 to 48 hours around the world. Crime lowers, especially in the place that they did. So again, we are this technology. You don't need this thing outside. It's just when we're dealing with so many issues, just like vitamin D, it's to me, think about it. It's like what you need a pill to help you just go in the sun. But when you have Bill Gates creating a fake cloud over our world, and you have eye contacts that I have to wear that are UV blocking, like we're not natural. None of what is going on here is natural. So we're going to have to adjust to that and bring us back into that.
So in that matter, what is the meaning that hope and habit and how accessible it is for families and healthy habits? So can impact the neighborhood.
Yes, and that's what we're working on. The purpose was to make public centers, to make it affordable, because they still need to make it more affordable and accessible for private homes. But my goal was, and my job specifically from the organization, was to take this and make it available publicly. That's what I did. Yes, sir.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michael. First, I just wanted to say thank you, Jason. This was amazing.
Michael's my best friend. He has underwear that he says protects your balls.
We're here on the discussion of different fields, electromagnetic fields. They actually got some EMF blocking underwear here. It's for men specifically. To protect against the harms of having your cell phone in your pocket all day. She's holding one up.
He's clearing them. You know, what?
Specifically infused, we have all the fabrics.
Basically, it's called silver lining. You have a silver lining literally for men specifically in this situation to protect the fact that, by the way, if you Google when a sperm count in 2050, what is it, 2050? It's meant to go down to 0. It will tell you this straight up as the first thing that comes up on Google when you Google sperm count in 2050, 0%. So by the way, Mikey is in medical school and he knows what's up. And he's going to be a future doctor in the world that knows what's going on and will be able to help from within. Thank you for that. He's awesome. Yes.
I feel we actually are meant to regenerate. That means sperm, it means womb, it means every part of us, electrical, neurological, everything, and it's possible. I mean, it's possible now. It's not in the future that it's going to be happening.
What if I told you you already did in the past?
I already did it this time too, so it's not as if it's, for me, very much of it is connected to chart of consciousness.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why we end up having vibrations, but we can heal ourselves. And as a matter of fact, I just had an experience of neurological, something I had since puberty. It's supposed to be on pharmaceuticals, didn't be on my whole life. And yeah, April 1st. I realized while doing my IM mirror activations that it was no longer there. That was all good. But yeah, so ancients game or whatever, however you can look at it, because it's April 1st. And then I was also added to July 4th.
That's awesome. You know, speaking on regeneration, I was in the Tarpon Springs location of Florida. Somebody came and actually showed me he cut the top of his finger off. And he regenerated it in 2 weeks. He came here every day. Wow. Say what you want. Maybe it's the system, maybe it's something else, maybe it's a combination of many things. The guy's finger is back. Showed me a picture. Showed me a picture before, showed me a picture after, and I saw his finger with my own eyes. It was crazy.
Nice. So so if we're saying I am regenerating, I am healthy, I am healing,
Yes.
our cells, our organs hear us rather than all this other pain.
That's the other book that I wrote. I think they have that one here. It's called The Language Fetish. But again, just to simplify that, to make it easy, we were all babies once. We were embryos. If you can grow a hand once, you can grow a hand again. Don't tell anyone. You did it. You did it once. You have the blueprint that created that. So a lizard could do it, right? But why can't you? I don't believe that you can't. I believe that you can. I believe that your belief that you can't stops you from doing that very thing. And the way that we know that is, I don't remember what it was, but recently, a few years ago, there was, or maybe it was more than that, but there was one person. The whole world said it's impossible to break the 5 or 4 minute mile or something like that. It was impossible. Nobody's ever done it before. And then one person broke it, and the next year, 20,000 people followed. It shows you the power of belief. Your belief will help you access the blueprint that you are, and you're an infinite thing. You just need to be able to tune into that thing once again. Yes.
The whole invention started in 1996.
Hi, by the way. I haven't seen you in a long time. Yes.
So I'm actually wondering how it came about, who invented it and how that happened.
Inventor is Dr. Sandra Rose Michael. Her parents were nuclear physicists. One was working on the nuclear bomb. The other one was working on, I think, Mach 3. So like structural, mechanical engineer. Very, very, she, you know, what's that thing called? The genius community? Mensa. You know what Mensa is? She was brought up in the Mensa community. It's basically everybody with a certain IQ and above. It's like the 1% of like actual geniuses based on IQ specifically. So that's who she is. That's how she was born. She's one of the few people that are very scientifically oriented and extremely spiritual oriented. And usually you don't get the two together. And specifically, I mean, she's been working on this for a large portion of her life. Today she's 69. I think she started when she was in her 20s. And and she had very thick hair. The first time that it was used, NASA showed up at her house because they put the area on DEFCON 3. They thought there was the electrical signature of a nuclear sub on land where she was in Colorado, and she connected it for the first time. And they didn't know what the hell was going on. So they came, they had hazmat suits, and they said, what's going on here? And now one of the main people from that thing in NASA actually works with her and has like 3,000 classified patents on many things relating to what you're seeing here. Yeah, yes.
Can you please explain how these medallion boards works simplified?
Yes, I want to actually explain something else in connection to that. Has anybody heard of the motion code?
What?
The motion code? You heard of the motion code? Okay, basically, it's this idea that, and it's all done through muscle testing. Muscle testing is basically this understanding that your subconscious knows everything. Meaning, just like in a computer, there's a memory there. No matter what you want to do, it may not be on your screen, but if you dig deep enough, you can access everything that computer did somewhere, somehow, one way or another. And in just that same way, you have a consciousness, your conscious awareness, and you have your subconscious awareness. So they say about 95% of your life is subconscious. I would probably say that it's a whole lot more than that. Every single person that you've seen in this room, every single person that you've seen in your life, whether or not you remember looking at them or not, it is stored somewhere in your memory. And you have the ability to access that. The question is, how do we do it? And we do it by speaking to the subconscious through something called muscle testing. So we right now, in this very physical world that we live in, we need to spend a lot of money on clinical trials and tests to know if this or that or whatever is good for you. There is a whole conflict over there because you cannot patent something that occurs naturally in nature, which means that they will never scientifically prove that an apple is good for colds, for example. Just giving to understand what I'm talking about here. Big picture, what I'm trying to say is your subconscious knows the answer to absolutely everything. And through muscle testing, asking it questions and seeing how your body responds, whether weak or strong, you will be able to know if something is good for you or not. There's something called the sway test that I learned about recently. The sway test is, does somebody here not know what muscle testing is? Say it again? Kinesiology. Yes, there are many different words, but basically it's testing your body against certain things. Meaning, let's say I'm allergic to coffee and apples are great for me. And I'll give you a test that they did. And I wanted to do it here today, but we didn't have enough time to set it up. You take 100 of you in the room. We put an envelope under every single one of your chairs. 50 of those envelopes have artificial sweetener, and 50 of those envelopes have vitamin C. You don't know what's inside that envelope. You just know that, or I know that 50% of them are good and 50% of them are not good for you. When somebody holds that envelope in their hand, not knowing what's in there, and you take their hand, it will go down. And when you put the vitamin C in their hand and you push their hand with that same amount of strength, it will stand strong. Because your body knows what's good for you and what's not good for you. It's the same thing if you put a phone to your head. It's the same thing if you're smoking a cigarette. It's the same thing with any of those things. Some things will make you weak in your energetic field, and some things will make you strong, and you can test that through muscle testing or kinesiology. The way that these things work, I don't have the necklace on me right now, but the way that can you bring that up, Emma? Bring one of those up. The way that these things work, and I just want to explain it so you guys understand, is a lot of people say, okay, well, what if we can't be in the center? What if we can't be in the center? We want to be able to experience it somewhere else also. You can't sit in a room for the rest of your life. So these are basically taking stones, and there's a science behind this. You can actually store memory on stones. The memory in your phone is possible because of something called a quartz crystal in your phone. That's what they've actually done scientifically to store memory, terabytes of information on quartz crystals and stones in general. So just like that, you can store memory on something like this, which is Pyrex. Pyrex, Pyrite, sorry, pyrite and glass. Okay, that's right. So, you could store something on this as well. And the way that this works is, and I'm actually going to see it for the first time at the end of August. I haven't seen it with my own eyes yet, but it's called a hypercharger. And a hypercharger basically takes the energy from this engine field generator that creates your torsion field and embeds it into this stone. And by the way, if you look at the stone, it also looks like a torsion field. It's a donut with a hole in the middle of energy going in all directions. This specific things with these bracelets, I know this one specifically goes out in terms of what they measured, about 5.5 feet in all directions around you. I think the bracelet's the same, but I'm not 100% sure. But basically, this cannot give you what the screens give you. So this is balancing this side of the equation. Not this side of the equation, but it's something, and there's a lot of people that have experienced great things with it. It's a way of bringing something with you, in addition to an actual stone, because stones have inherent energy and properties to them. So tiger's eye is different than lapis lazuli. Lapis lazuli is blue, tiger's eye is brown. Brown will be the resonance, right? We spoke about color and how energy is expressed as color based on our perception. So brown or red stones will help you balance this part of your body. This part of your body, meaning your everything having to do with your root chakra. There's a whole map to that, but it's your blood flow, inflammation. Have you ever paid attention that cherries are good for inflammation? Red foods are good for inflammation. So are red stones. It's not about the food or the stone. It's about the color and the energy of that thing. And just like you can consume something red, you can wear something red. So it's this idea of understanding everything in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. That's what Nikola Tesla told us to do. That's what he showed us before they got rid of him, because he was really doing a lot of great things in this world. So in short, these necklaces are a way of taking that fortune field energy, that scalar energy with you where you go. My recommendation is to wash them, take care of them, especially if they're black, because black stones like onyx absorb a lot of energy. Matter of fact, in the line of work that I'm in, I can't really wear black stones that much anymore unless I wash them. And what I'm going to say next is, it's going to sound crazy, but this is my experience. There have been times where I was standing in front of big audiences and the stone exploded on my, exploded, it cracked out of nowhere on my neck and just broke into pieces. And it's because these things store energy. And sometimes if you don't refresh them and get rid of them, it's almost like not showering or not getting rid of the energy that's being stored up in your body. You need it to continue flowing and moving and doing all those things. So this is a great way to do it. It's a way of taking that energy with you. And I think you guys have them at the center, yes? But in addition to that, there's something else that needs to be spoken about, which is your detoxes, okay? It's not just about sitting in something like this. And the detox that I'm about to say, there are going to be two parts of this protocol that I'm going to speak about, are not just when you're in this system, but you definitely do them when you're in the system. You should do them regardless because they'll help you. Number one is a salt bath. A salt bath is not the same thing as the ocean. The ocean is great. It's a beautiful thing. It balances you and it's extremely healing. But a salt bath is taking something that's not natural, because water is not supposed to be 104 degrees. It's not really 104 degrees unless you go into one of those thermal pools by volcanoes somewhere. But it's taking the fact that we have a lot of dirt in our body and it's helping release them through the pores. So basically the way that it works is, and there's a formula on unifiedhealing.com. So all centers carry this salt. You don't need to get the salt from the center. If you choose to, you want to support them, great. But you can make this salt at home if you choose to. And basically what this is a formula of different things. Epsom salt is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about real Celtic sea salt, pink Himalayan salt, anything that isn't Epsom salt or fake table salt, because that's not salt. And what happens is when you take, let's say, about a half a pint, I guess, of salt, whatever that, 2 cups, something like that, of salt, and you put it in your bath, whatever, 30, 40 gallons, whatever it is, you're now sitting in a tub with your pores open. That salt is taking everything outside of your body that is now attaching to it. So think about it like this. When you clear your, this is it. Here, and this is the ingredients also, so you guys can see it as well. And I'm gonna tell you guys something over here that's gonna alarm you if you don't know about it. It says borax. Okay, and people see, what do you mean borax? It's laundry detergent. No, it's not. It's an element used in laundry detergent. It's not a problem. It helps a lot, Donald Trump, by the way, not to get into politics, but do you guys remember he spoke about laundry detergent because he didn't explain it the right way and everybody just shat on him for it? This is what he was talking about, and it really works. It really helps a lot of people. It's been helping a lot of people. That's why it's a part of this formula as well. But basically, in short, the way that it works is just like if you have to clear your throat, right? And you have phlegm in your lungs that's now coming out. You don't want to swallow it. You want to spit it out. But the mouth of your skin is called your pores. To spit it out, you need to give it an environment to open its pores with the proper elements outside that are going to pull that garbage out. When you're sitting in a room like this today, we've been here for about 2-3 hours. What's actually going on here, in addition to everything that I just explained, is almost like your body being shaken in a good way to get all that garbage out. But the garbage is still sitting in your body, it's just loose. So you have two options. You either get it out through something like a salt bath, and this is not just when you're in a system like this. In general, do a salt bath once a week, it's great. It's relaxing, it's calming, it's soothing, and it's healing. But especially when you're in a system like this, no, like every single time, I would say at minimum, at least with your feet, because your feet will get, it's a good medium to get rid of a lot of toxins in your body. But if you have a bath in your house, I do it once a week in my apartment or my house, wherever I am in the world, and it helps extraordinarily. And it's extremely important when you do it with this. But there's a second part to the equation on top of salt baths that are very, very important, and it has to do with the way that you eat. So this is the last part of the protocol here that I just want to, I've drawn this before, I've shown this around the country in many, many different places. I'm going to do it again because it's, I thought it was simple and it's not apparently. So we're going to draw it and make it super understand what's going on here. So basically, let's talk about the torsion field that exists in nature. What creates it? The source of all life, the sun. Right, so we want to get as close as possible. Now, of course, but sunlight is the source of all life. Without that, you will not have any form of sustenance for anything else. They still have sunlight through different rays. They still eat from certain things that get their energy from the sun. Coral reefs that are 5,000 feet below sea level on the ocean floor still reproduce every single time there's a full moon. That's why they're still alive. And it's all because of the energy of the sun. Whether they seem to be in contact with it or not is not relevant. The energy of the sun is a very big form of sustenance, the main form of sustenance of all life as we know it. But you can't eat the sun, right? Because we're not autotrophs, we're heterotrophs. Now, there are nuances there. I'm not going to get there, but there are people that are able to do that. They're called breatharians. I just spoke to one the other day. She hasn't eaten or drank something like that for 5 years. Okay, but that's not what normal people can do. That takes a very different level of evolution to be able to do something like that. So, for the norm, the way that it works is very simple. We have sunlight. And we have two classifications of food. You have autotrophs and heterotrophs. Autotrophs are foods that make their own food through photosynthesis, for example. And heterotrophs are food that need to, or beings that need to get their food from an outside source, like human beings. So there's a food pyramid that they never really taught us. The FDA or whatever it is gives us their own form of food pyramid that tells us we either eat a lot of garbage and gives 40% of America cancer. The real food pyramid is this. Now, what I'm going to write over here, and I said this before, will be controversial to some. I'm not here to tell you what way is better or worse. I don't believe that everybody has one way that's going to be good for them. Okay, I was born and raised a vegan. I know people that have tried that route, and it didn't work for them. And there are a lot of nuances to the whole thing. So I don't want you guys to hear what I'm about to say as if you don't do this, you're doing something wrong. No, I'm just giving you the science of how energy moves through food and how what you're consuming is impacting that and impacting you. So over here, you have level 1, plants, fruits, vegetables, herbs, and nuts. Those are all autotrophs. They get their energy directly from source, the closest thing to light as we know it, which is the sun. They do that through a process called photosynthesis. They convert sunlight into energy, into food. From there, we have something called herbivores. Herbivores are the things that eat from level one, which got its energy from a direct primary source. Carnivores are what eat the herbivores that got their energy from this level, that got its energy from this level, meaning this is a more diluted form than the one above it when it comes to sustenance and the light in that food. And the way that we know that is through Kirlian photography. This is not just philosophy. There are certain cameras that can actually take pictures of the light of your food. And if you take a picture of a steak versus the picture of an apple, you will see one has a lot less light in it. If you take a picture of a broccoli that's raw versus a broccoli that's cooked, you will see a lot less life in it, a lot less light in that cooked broccoli. So this level is not just talking about fruits, plants, vegetables. It's talking about whole foods in its whole form, especially when you're sick. I've seen a lot of cancer patients growing up because of certain things of how I was raised and the people that I've seen around me. Cancer patients, a lot of sick people. And the main thing that always helped them was changing their diet. Because you are what you eat. You consume dead food. I'm not just talking about animals. You consume dead food, even dead broccoli and dead apples and dead whatever it may be, anything that you would cook. How do you expect to experience life if you're eating death? It's a simple 1 + 1 = 2. So over here, you got your carnivores that are eating the herbivores that are eating from level one, and level one that gets its food directly from the sun. When you're sick, the primary thing that you should be focused on is how do I bring myself back into balance? How do I recreate that torsion field in the body? Because that's what we are. That's literally what we are. We've just become out of touch and out of contact with that. And the way to do that is very simple. You eat from the foods that are closest to that source, that have the highest degree of light. And the rule of thumb over there is water to matter ratio. Meaning a cucumber has 97% and 99% water to matter ratio. It's actually 97% water. A steak is much less. I think it's in the 70s or something like that. So that's your rule of thumb. Forget about what it is that you're eating, because also a cooked vegetable can also be in the 70s. So it's all about your water to matter ratio. Your water is your measure of light in that food for simplistic purposes. And the more light you eat, the more light you become. The fourth level, I notice I don't put an arrow, is called processed foods. What the people in power did today with this whole vegan movement that they've destroyed is they've taken level 4, called Impossible Burgers and Beyond Burgers. They've disguised them as level 1. And people are stupid enough to think that it's actually vegan and good for you. And it's not. Because you're much better off eating a steak than you are eating an Impossible or Beyond Burger. Because of this period, because that's how it works. Once you start messing with nature, nature's going to come and mess with you. That's how the whole thing works. Nothing, by the way, is not a part of source. Let's get that one straight. A Dorito is still connected to source, just as much as an Empire State Building is connected to source, because it's still made up of the same elements that the tree and the ground and the everything. It's the elements. It's your periodic table of elements. The only difference is one is manipulated to create a structure, and the other one is whole to create food. We need to go and eat whole foods to the best of our ability to be able to come back into balance with ourselves once again. One thing I want to address, if this is true, then why do people that have been eating meat for whatever try and go vegan and they become anemic and they become sick? And so we have to address that, because that's an elephant that happens. I know a lot of people that happened to. I personally think, number one, it has to do with your lineage as well. Your lineage is from Ireland or Germany, and you guys have been eating something for generations. That's a part of you. That's a part of who you are. So just like I'm going to give an analogy here, but I don't want anybody to take it in a way of comparing food to drugs. Let's take cocaine. You're addicted to cocaine, and you try to get off that cocaine in one day. You're going to get very sick. You can die. Does that mean that the cocaine is good for you and stopping the cocaine is bad for you? No. It means that you have a vibration of being that your body is when you're a cocaine addict, and you have a vibration of being when you're not. And if you try to shift that vibration too quick, it's almost like electrocuting you. It can kill you. You're trying to shift the energy too quick when you're not prepared to do that. So my number one thing that I tell everybody, listen to your body. This chart is great, but listen to your body. If your body's telling you you're trying to go that route of eating from up here, and you're getting rid of, all the bread and all the meat and whatever it is, and you don't feel good, then don't do that. Don't do that at that speed. Do it at what speed feels good for you. I don't care about what I say, and you shouldn't care about what I say either. Hear what I say. It's not an ultimate truth. There are nuances here. All of you are going to respond differently to your food, just like you'll all respond differently to this technology. You have to listen to your body. You have to listen to your food. You have to listen to your feelings. And if you're just going by what you think is good and what somebody is telling you is not good, you can get very, very sick. So it's a matter of shifting your vibration in a coherent way, in a stable way, and not to shock the body too quickly. If you shock the body too quickly, you're going to have a problem. Yes.
Like some people that have like colitis or Crohn's, they cannot eat raw foods or raw vegetables.
Correct. As a matter of fact, this comes from the book, Raising Life. That's what this center is named after. And the book is actually written in purple text with a white page. That's why you see the colors of this center is purple and white. In Raise a Light, it speaks about forbidden foods. And it says something very interesting, which is what homeopathy is. If you're going to eat forbidden foods, you're going to need to use forbidden foods in order to cure yourself. If you're going to eat garbage, you're going to need to use garbage in a certain way to cure yourself and rebalance yourself. So what you said is absolutely true. If you have certain ailments or diseases, you can't eat certain foods. Absolutely. There is a way to go about curing those ailments, not just by changing this food, but going into things like homeopathy through your food. And I'm not an expert in that. That's why I'm not going into detail. But I know people on a personal level that have been guided in that way through certain guides and certain people that have shown them, forget any of this, all the way to you have to eat buffalo meat to fix this specific ailment. Talking about Raise a Lot. You have to eat buffalo meat. You have to eat snake was a certain situation in it, and it's using forbidden foods to fix that problem that forbidden foods cause. But here's the key. If you never go down the path of forbidden foods, which is kind of impossible because we all do, but if you don't go down that path, you're never going to need to use forbidden foods to heal yourself because you're not going to have that problem in the first place. It's a matter of reclaiming our health and then understanding the spiritual purposes behind everything that you just said, behind Crohn's disease, behind cancer. You understand that breast cancer has a completely different meaning than testicular cancer. And testicular cancer has a completely different meaning than prostate cancer. Because where something is stored in your body, there's a map for that too. A map of the body where emotions are stored, how energy moves in your body. And everything that you experience as a physical manifestation of a problem started with an energetic root. Every piece of matter started with an energetic root, and we've forgotten that. We've forgotten that. The key to going about that, one of them, is spoken in this book, who I'm gonna interview the doctor who put it together. It's called The Emotion Code. And it's very interesting. I recommend everybody to read it. It shows you how to find that trapped energy in your body that would have maybe turned cancerous and release it. And you know how it works? You know when you have a hotel key and you put it next to your phone and it erases? Or you take a hotel key and you put a magnet to it and it erases? It's interesting. How that works is very simple when it comes to healing the body. The emotion code will show you through muscle testing how to find, by speaking to the subconscious, a trapped emotion in your body. And once you find that trapped emotion in your body, you take a magnet over your governing meridian, which goes from the base of your spine up all the way around to the bottom of my lip over here. Every single one of us have. And you take that magnet and you swipe the magnet over that governing meridian once you bring the energy up to the surface, and it will do exactly what a magnet does to a hotel room.
What's the name of the book?
The Emotion Code by Dr. Bradley Nelson. It's incredible and it's simple, and it shows you ways to be able to help you heal yourself. Because I don't believe that we have to keep saying, okay, we're going to depend on this thing outside of us. I think it's nonsense. It's stupid. It's sad. You know how many people I saw growing up that they're just like, we're hopeless. We got to do this, the doctor's saying. But there are other ways, and the doctors aren't bad people. Most of them aren't. They're really great people. They were just taught a certain way.
Yeah.
They went to medical school. They didn't have anybody showing them the other side. They had somebody saying, here are the dots, and this is how you connect them. They spent $500,000, and most of them are in loans until they're 50 or 60. All these things have brought them to a place where, number one, even if they found the truth, it's very hard to stand up for it. Because what are you gonna just stand up and say the 10 years or 15 years that I spent in my life becoming a doctor and all the energy that I put to study on this thing is wrong or not exactly what they told me? That's a hard thing to do. That's a hard thing to do.
It's not gonna be based on certificate or degree, it's gonna be based on their vibrations.
I agree.
Feel.
I
So
agree.
all of that is really the point.
I
All
completely
these
agree.
people in that, but it's not gonna make a
Emotional.
paradigm shift.
Yes.
At all.
We're gonna do 2 more questions. I think, what time is it? Okay, we're gonna do 2 more questions. We'll bring it to that close. We'll go to you and then we'll go to you. Yes.
About scheduling appointments. And I know that you said that it's best to do like 2-hour appointments.
No, the minimum. is 2 hours. Yeah.
So what I wanted to know is, I'm thinking about actually with my dad, because my dad's like, you know, he's 91. Up until a year ago, he was completely mobile, he was doing everything. Right now, he's in the wheelchair. So what I'm trying to figure out is what would be the best way to kind of like schedule appointments.
It's gonna be specifically through, I guess.
Well, I know that, but do I do like, you know, is it better?
Oh, longer periods of time will be better.
Giving a couple of days rest between, doesn't.
No, I would, the way that I like doing it, one of the doctors, her name is Dr. Baker in Michigan. She has a Unified Healing affiliated center as well in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. She created a 20-hour base rule. Forget about anything. We're all different, right? I can't tell you exactly what's gonna happen because your body is different than mine, so is your father's. What we could do is create a base, test before and test after. Now, based on what your dad is experiencing, there would be a different test or a different measure of success. You have to establish what that measure of success is, and then see where he's at with those measurements before. Do 20 hours and measure it after. See what happens. Now, 20 hours, well, again, we're all different people. I like the base because we've seen it work for many people of seeing something. But some people, I know somebody that had what was it? Esophagus cancer or something like that. He had to spend 250 hours in a system. And he did everything that we spoke about, the protocols and all that. And I'm pretty sure it's gone now. I think it's gone. Yes, but he had to go 250 hours. I know other people that went in with something even crazier than him, and in 8 hours, the thing was
Well, I
gone.
was watching that video where there was that Marine or something that was being sent to hospice and
Yes.
he had a stroke and he was.
Let's put it this way, the sicker you are, the easier it will be able to see results. The further you are from the point that you have to be at, the easier the indication will be to see, the easier the result will be to see. And the analogy that I'll give you is this, let's go back to cellular charge. If I'm at 65, then moving from 65 to 70 is not gonna give me a big change in how I feel. But if I'm at 30, then you're gonna see a big change in that experience of a 40-point move, more than that 5-point.
And my question is too, how long does it take when you're under, you know, when you're sitting in front of these lights to bring yourselves up to like optimal 17 or 19?
Every single human being is different. You can't, there is no direct, you're asking those questions because we've been programmed as a society with the commercials that we see on screen. And they say, do this and you'll experience that, do this and you'll experience that. That's not true. It may be true 65% of the time or 71% of the time based on what your clinical trial said. And legally, they're allowed to say that because that's what the rules are, but that's not true. So everybody is different.
How
Yes.
long does your body hold the charge? Would you guess, like, so if you spent 3 or 4 hours,
Depends what you do when you leave. Okay, so forget, again, you don't need this to give you the charge. You can develop that charge yourself. Okay, this is the, I want to reiterate that over and over and over again, because I know that I've succeeded when this goes to the garbage. We shouldn't need these things. We do because of the world that we live in right now. But in short, it's based on how you live. You know, are you doing meditation? Are you stressed the whole day? If you're stressed the whole day and you're like this, then it's probably gonna go away much
in the room, but then when you left the room, it just made you no longer.
So I know some people that the next day, they're like, I'm back to myself with what I was before I went in. I know other people on the opposite side of this extreme that went in 7 months ago, you know, I have been a different person since. And then there's everybody in between. So again, there's no clear direct answer yet. There could be an answer based on statistics. I've created something called the Conditions Improvement Form. Conditions Improvement Form on unifiedhealing.com is a way to be able to share your testimonials, but not just in a way of nice words and what you experienced, in a way of us gathering data so we can express that data to the world. And I think we've gotten a lot of submissions so far, but you need like 50, 60,000 to really do something big over here of true results. And then when you go to the doctor that refers people to places like this, but would never because they don't believe it, at least some of them, or most of them at this point, we need to change that. The goal is not how do we shift the collective consciousness of the masses directly. The goal is how do we shift the collective consciousness of the people that the masses listen to, and that's a much smaller group. Okay, I'm not here to change the minds of 8 billion people. I'm here to raise awareness, and I do that in places like this. But the main goal right now, if you want to be efficient and make this work in our lifetime, we need to reach that group of people, which is doctors and scientists, and there aren't many of them that call the shots. We need to reach them because everybody, all those 8,000 people listen to them. Don't focus on the 8 billion points, focus on the 3 that they listen to, and you win. Yes.
We have open night, according to Dr. Sandra, is the best, the longest and the cheapest way to go.
That's true. Let's back to your question of what you said real quick. Your, in terms of length, imagine like this. Is it better to meditate 1 minute 10 times a day or meditate once for 10 minutes in one shot? You'll drop deeper when you do the 10 minutes in one shot because you're sitting down, you have more time to do that. So in that way, what he's saying that Dr. Michael says, which she always says, is she calls it a scalar slumber party. The more you could, if you do the 20-hour base with your father, I would personally do the overnights. So maybe 2 or 3 of them and see what happens, because that's when you're really going to see if you want a drastic change, that's going to be your highest probability of experiencing it. But you need to make sure to do the salt bath. In 3 days, there's not so much you can do with your diet, but he should, I don't know what he eats, but clean it up as much as possible. No bags of chips, let's say. At least eliminate the 4th level processed foods. That's easy for everybody. Everything else can be a little, hard based on what you're doing.
People I see because I study with Dr. Joe Dispenza,
Yeah.
The key number 1 is to say, leave the unknown to work. The unknown work. Don't think, oh my God, I go to here, I go to it, it's not gonna happen.
The key to being successful is allowing the unknown, I call it the subconscious door, to do its thing. That's what Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lee, Great Ben,
Yes.
Cash Foundation, Spaceship Institute,
Awesome.
all of them, unknown is the key. The time you think, oh, I stay between the machine, I can feel no more cancer. It's not gonna happen.
No, bring it with you everywhere. Again, you are this technology. This technology is just recreating what we've come out of contact with. We said one more question back there, we'll close it out. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Can you stand up so everybody can hear you? This is important.
And she went to all the doctors. I mean, you name it. Doctors galore, everywhere. We went everywhere. Hospitals, ER visits, full testing. Nothing showed up. They couldn't find anything wrong with it. Meanwhile, she was sick. She was physically sick. But it was connected emotionally. So we ended up, I got a referral to an amazing doctor in Boston. I could mention his name, but in Boston, Dr. Rich Margill. He is connected to the NIS system, and he does follow the emotion code. I just go to him every couple of months just to kind of upset. And I also come here, and I love it. But I'm just saying it changed her life. Started practicing protocols, changed her diet. She kind of went back a little bit recently because we had a death in the family, but nevertheless, it changed her life. So the emotion code is actually
Amazing.
amazing.
I'm going to interview Dr. Bradley Nelson. Yes, I'm working on it right now. He was just put in touch with him. So it's amazing, amazing. So anyways, to sum this all up, first of all, what was the elevator pitch that we learned. Okay? Charging the cell. The elevator pitch is a high electrical cellular charge intracellularly, of course, renders an environment that sickness cannot exist in. Charge your cells, experience health, have a deficient electrical charge, experience the opposite. It's all about the environment that you're in and the environment that you're creating. That is how the simplistic version of the explanation of this system works. It is a cellular charger for the battery of your body, which are your cells. With that being said, Lee, why don't you come up here? I want to say thank you to all of you guys. Thank you so much for your support. We've come a very, very long way. Do you have that sheet? I just want to see it. Yeah, get it for me. Basically, just to reiterate what I said before we started this, my job, my purpose, my everything that I do is to find ways to have a win-win-win for everybody. It's like what I'm wired to do. I don't believe that somebody needs to lose in order for you to gain. I think that that's an outdated and dumb and nonsensical way of thinking. And this whole thing that we were speaking about is going to start over here, but with that membership program. But my goal is really to show that it works, so we can now get this to people in places all around the world. Eventually, I want all centers to then open up a gifting program for this membership and even use their own funds. Forget about other people gifting it, but using their own funds because of your support to find people in the towns that they're in that can't afford it and gift them a membership, gift them an annual membership, give it to people that can't afford it. That's the goal. The goal is to make this affordable, accessible to all, and to the people that truly, truly, truly have no way of accessing this. It's us that come together as a community to make that affordable, or in some cases even free for them. That's what Unified Healing's mission is. It's to support everybody by supporting all of us together. It's not a matter of waiting for a savior outside of you. So I was a big part of putting together this membership program with Lee, with Talia, with my aunt, with Ashley. I really want to see this succeed. I see a lot of you filled this whole thing out. There's a few spots left over here, but basically, and you guys are going to start hearing this on centers around the globe, because I'm going to start doing my best to push this. I think it's a really, really powerful model that can help a lot of people. It's $179 a month. It's an annual membership. That's how it works. It's 60 hours per month for the price of 3, basically. So it's 95% off, which is basically $3 an hour. And it's every single day that you want to come for 2 hours at a time. If you want to come for more than 2 hours, what we wrote over here is it's 50% off for any extra hours throughout the day. It's 20% off all night packages on top of that. Just for that, it's worth it, night package. And it's 20% off all merchandise over here. So I'm going to do my best to implement this everywhere. Again, we're using this as a case study to show that it works and to show that centers can be extremely successful without a massive volume, and then grow that volume, make these things really cover the entire planet. So if you haven't yet signed up and you're interested, I'll just pass this around. Or no, you know what we'll do? Instead of passing it around, we'll put it in the front. And if anybody wants it, just ask somebody in the front or fill this out. It's open to the first 50 people as like a pilot little test, and we'll take it from there. Yes. Right now, it started.
It's $180 a month forever.
It's $180 a month, and it's locked in for a year. That's how they do
Is it shareable with the rest of the family?
it. Say it again.
Is it shareable?
It-
with your
Yeah,
family?
you can answer.
So the membership is specific to one person, but we did make this the more affordable option because the packages that we offer are shareable to the family. So there in packages, you could purchase a lump sum of hours, 10, 24, or 50. That's for the household. That'll be at a certain discount, but this, since it's one person, we're knocking it down 95% on the annual basis to $3 an hour.
The key is to make this, because it's correct. And then you can bring everybody, but the key over here is now, because I have a different perspective with all these centers. There's a lot. A center like this is about $16,000 to $17,000 just in expenses before they started doing everything every single month. So there's a lot that goes into it, and forget about this center. It's 300 centers that everybody has a different story and a different plan, and a different, layout and all that. But there needed to be something that came up that's more, and centers don't have to do this, and I'm not planning on making anything mandatory. It's a matter of showing it's so great because it's helping people, it's helping the centers. let's all take it upon ourselves and do that if we see that it works, but that will only happen if it works.
Only for a year.
Say it again, I'm sorry.
So it's only for 1 year.
And then you can renew it 1 year later, correct, yes,
So, but this.
yes. If you want to open a center overseas, go to unifiedhealing.com. You'll see open a center, and you can put it right, just apply, and we'll take care of it from there. One second, there's one more thing. Has anybody heard of the movie Sound of Freedom? So, Unified Healing and EESYSTEM, thanks for the support from all of you, because these centers are basically funding that. We are executive producers on the film. We helped fund it. We sold 540,000 tickets. We beat Indiana Jones in the box office. And that is all about the pre-sale at least. And that's all about raising awareness for true stories having to do with trafficking or sex trafficking children. And it's a true story of a man named Tim Ballard, ex-CIA, ex-Homeland Security. And he went on a mission in Colombia, 3 different missions that they combined to one for the purposes of the movie, where in that specific one, he rescued about 55 children. And that's happening in the thousands and hundreds of thousands all around the world now. The purpose of the movie is to raise awareness, and I share that with you guys, number one, because if you don't know about the movie already, it's just Google Sound of Freedom. The first link will get you to be able to watch the world premiere. It's premiering in over 3,000 movie theaters around the United States, and from there, we're gonna go to the rest of the world in September, October. But support it, get a ticket for somebody else. People need to know about this. A year ago, when I did it's happening on July 4th on Independence Day. A year ago, how many of you have watched the Disclosure series? Okay, so in the Disclosure series, we speak a lot about child sex trafficking and certain operations that were done to help these children. And people didn't believe me. They're like, "You're lying. I don't believe you. You're just making up an interview." And today, it's an actual known fact that 2 million children every single year are sex trafficked. As a matter of fact, the airline industry is $22 billion per year. The sex trafficking industry is $99 billion per year. It's bigger than all of your airlines combined that we take every single day. So this needs to be known. People need to become aware of it. The Sound of Freedom movie is for that. Tony Robbins is one of the producers on it. I became one of the executive producers on it. EESYSTEM helped fund all of this. And again, the only reason why that was possible was because of all of the support from you guys at these centers, coming to these centers, spreading the word. And that's the win-win that we're talking about. And that's your fortune field. So again, I want to say thank you guys very much. Make sure to check out the membership plan. I think it's successful.